Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to tradertv.live. We're seeing North American stock futures slightly lower so far this morning ahead of the annual Federal Reserve Symposium and the Fed speech from Jerome Powell coming up in a matter of moments, expected around 9:10 Eastern, going to be virtual this year, obviously with the pandemic, but we will monitor that speech coming up, as I said, in the next few minutes here. It's usually in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We'll let you know if anything comes out of that as far as developments that will move the market. The speech is expected to be the introduction of a new pandemic-era tool to combat the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and hopefully foster some economic growth throughout the U.S. But again, we'll let you know what happens when that does start, as I said, in the next few minutes. We're watching big name tech shares today, once again set to open higher, offsetting some weakness otherwise right across the board. Both Dollar General and Dollar Tree reported earnings. We'll have a look at both of those names coming up. Big move for Abbott Laboratories in the pre-market here, trading higher after winning FDA approval for a COVID-19 test. And discount retailers, as I said, the Dollar Tree and Dollar General moves. Interesting, one to the upside, one to the downside this morning. It's Thursday, August 27th, 2020. TraderTV.live starts now. There we go. Look at Asian markets from the overnight session. You can see a bit of a mixed bag here. We had Korea leading the way to the downside. We'll shift over to Europe and see how things are looking so far. Same story, a bit of a mixed showing so far throughout the European landscape. Let's go over to North America, and you'll see mostly red numbers here, led by the S&P 500, or was leading the way to the downside. Now the NASDAQ taking over 0.17%. TSX futures here in Toronto, 0.24% decline expected. Bitcoin, 1.3% to the downside. Both crude oil and gold trading in negative territory so far this morning as well. Wanted to touch on a couple of economic points that came out this morning, guys. Big miss once again on the second reading of the second quarter GDP was 32.5 expected, 32.5% decline expected. Here came out negative 31.7%. The other one out this morning, initial jobless claims from last week, over 1 million for the second straight week. Continuing claims down here, 14.5 million as well. So the job front, still not the greatest in the U.S. So a little bit of negativity heading towards this speech, guys. We were just talking, if anything is mentioned in this speech, we could get a pretty decent market move here this morning.
You better believe it. And I'm gonna say Jackson Hole because it's just what I'm used to be honest with you guys. So, everyone's talking about this new sort of floating inflation target, average range, whatever you want to call it. Either way, if they're going to allow it in the long term to possibly float above that 2% target, of the Fed, of course, I'm talking about here, that's got to be good for anybody chasing the tech names, chasing growth. That's where you're going to have to put the money. I think that might have been at least some of the reason. It's all speculation now, of course, and sort of everything's 2020 in hindsight, right? So you look at CRM, you saw what happened there. Maybe that's a little bit of it. We are flat off those economic numbers, and I sort of feel like if we get any kind of further stimulus, or just watch out, this market could really ramp to the upside, depending on what comes out of the Fed chair there. And there's so much to get to here. I'm going to be all over one stock, and I sort of told myself today I will not look at NEO without looking at Li Auto today. And I feel like as good a trade as NEO was yesterday, Arun, wow, Li Auto in the afternoon sustaining its breakout when NEO faltered at 21. And I was looking at him like, why was I paying attention to NEO? Double bottom, and then Li Auto just took off.
Yeah, today's going to be a very interesting day, especially going into the open, given that the statement's supposed to come out in about 5 minutes or so. So we'll see how that goes, but at the same time, it doesn't matter which direction the market goes. The market's going to go. Whatever, you're either going to confirm the rumors or what people are expecting, or you're not going to confirm it, which is a problem in itself. So we're going up on the confirmation, we're going down possibly because everyone's like, well, you know what, maybe that's not good enough. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. Just have a plan, trade your plan. We have our stocks. Brendan's always got that trade list or the hot list for you. So we're just going to work those levels, and when the trade happens, we're going to take them. Of course, in this situation, we're going to be patient enough, to see what happens after, closer to the open. So I'm not going to step into anything pre-market. Definitely not the futures. More patient with the stocks. Closer to the pre-market open, or closer to the open in itself, is when I'm more willing to step into some trades.
Yeah, definitely one of those mornings where we see a lot of people, I think, sitting on the sidelines, kind of awaiting this speech and awaiting the comments to see what is going to come out of that speech. And then, as Arun said, the reaction to follow from the market. Let's have a look at the top 10 trader list from Day Trade the World here. Yesterday, we had another great day here at Day Trade the World. Five figures for the most part, top to bottom here, coming out of mostly the U.S. Yesterday. Got to go all the way down to number 4 here to get into some Europe, more U.S. and a little bit of BOVESPA there. There's Brazil, $8,400 coming out of those markets yesterday in the number 6 position. While we're talking about that, coming up this afternoon, guys, we're going to have another session highlighting our sponsor here at Trader TV Live, Day Trade the World. So another information session coming at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Join us right back here at the same channel at 1 p.m. We'll have a discussion about Day Trade the World, answer some frequently asked questions about both proprietary trading and opening your own trading floor. Also coming up this morning, we have another great educational video for you. How to master reading the tape, a vital skill if you're going to be intraday trading. The market happens both on the level 2 and the time and sales. Lots of great stuff in that video on reading the tape. Let's go over to the desk and say good morning to Valeria.
Good morning and hello everyone. Welcome to the live trading show. If you joined us for the first time, please hit subscribe and also sign up to our daily free watch list at the link I'm sending on the chat. Guys, don't forget to like this video and let's get it started. Back to Brandon.
All right, yeah, lots to get through here this morning. Looks like Fed Chair Powell just beginning his speech. So buckle up, I guess, is the best way to put it here. Watch the market. I do have a chart of the futures open right now. So if anything happens, any big movements come, we'll let you know why that is. Let's start with Abbott Laboratories here, guys. Moving to the upside this morning. The FDA granting emergency use authorization for their COVID-19 test kit. This is a mobile kit, apparently the size of a credit card, that can have results within 15 minutes, and they're going to sell it for $5 a pop, which is pretty impressive, I guess. So a nice look here for ABT to the upside this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you see a gap like this, forget about your breakout trades, forget about your key levels, because there aren't going to be any in Abbott Labs. And I think, $5 test, 50 million units, they do like 31 billion in revenue. So I can't say that this is going to be this stage a game changer for them individual. Obviously, it's a positive here, and you can certainly expand that down the line because probably going to need testing for a while in this space. My first look is always on a vaccine gap up to see if we can't catch a breakdown, and it's going to be the same pattern that we like to do. I like to do before. I look at that top, and it was 113.50. You do see some wicks to the upside at like 114 here. Those are dark pool prints, so call it like a 113.50 area. If that gets tested off the open and does not break out, I'm going to be trying to jump into a short. I'm looking for something in the 112.50 to that 113.50 range. That dollar range to be in. First target would be that 110 pre-market bottom, and then filling in the gap from there. So that's always going to be my first look when I see news here. There's no key levels to work off of other than the trade I'm going to try to put on if parameters met on Abbott Labs.
Yeah, for me, I've got 109.75 on the bottom and 115 on the top. It seemed to be going sideways after that nice, fairly large run up yesterday, so late session yesterday. So what we're going to do is 109.75 on the bottom, 115 on the top. If we can get a breakout on either end, I'm going to look for a trade most likely within the 112.50 on the stop on either end, depending on how this moves. If this goes right now, it's going to be 112.50. If it spends some more time before it goes, then I'm going to have to readjust the stop that would be put in if the break happens. But for the moment, though, 115 on the top, 109.75, and we're just looking for a break on either end.
All right, guys. Yeah, lots of comments coming through so far from Fed Chair Powell as far as some of the notes that he's bringing out here. It looks like it's fairly in line with what people were expecting. We are getting a little bit of volatile action, to say the least, in the futures right now, but they're going to target 2% average inflation over the next 5 or so years and double checking on inflation over the next 5 or so years. I'll keep reading through that stuff. Let's continue on here, guys. We'll talk about both Dollar Tree Tree and Dollar General out with earnings this morning. We had beat on both sides, so both Dollar Tree and Dollar General beating on earnings expectations. There was a little bit of question when it comes to Dollar Tree on the forward-looking guidance. So they're talking about maintaining this kind of level of demand and a question mark in that case. So a little bit of a down move on that note today. Otherwise, both of these reports were pretty solid so far.
Yeah, I mean, the other advantage, or I guess I'll call it win, that I would give to Dollar General was their same-store sales beat by double, relative to a Dollar Tree. And I think that's why you're seeing them hold up so well. On Dollar General, I was looking at support levels 203.80 to 204 was the sort of range I was looking at. I got that on the higher time frame. Also held up here in the pre-market action that you are seeing. It is ramping back up above 206, where there seems to be on relatively low volume, a bit of a buyer down at that price. So, that's the area I'm looking for support on Dollar General. I'd much rather be long this name today as opposed to Dollar Tree, which I think has some relative weakness. There, I was looking at a 95 support level before I'd be interested in buying this name.
So for me, I actually like the action in front of 98 on Dollar Tree DLTR. So what I've done is I'm going to put a stop down at 97.50. The reason I like this action, it gives me an area to expect some buying. Of course, I'm looking for the break, not necessarily the buying. I care about the break because that opens up a short side trade for me where I actually can put a proper stop in to work the sell side. So 97.50 on the break for me on DLTR. I don't really like the chart for the other one, DG. So for me, DLTR, 97.50 on the break. Nice little push, should get an extension of this move.
Arun, I'll put you on the spot here a little bit. It might be worth having a look at the futures a couple of times here this morning, guys,
okay.
As far as these comments are concerned coming out of the Fed speech. It doesn't look like anything terribly surprising. We are seeing a little bit of volatile trading right now on the actual futures. Arun, maybe just a couple of comments as far as how this is trading. I mean, is it really just a lack of liquidity and a lack of directional movement at this point?
Not really. This is a common thing, especially with these Fed announcements. Keep in mind, a lot of the trading that happens in the futures is program related. So it's parsing words, and if there are certain key words that come off in a speech, these programs activate and start going in one direction. That is the kind of activity you're going to see. It will happen. It happens on FOMC all the time. It will happen on these live speeches and these texts and everything like that. So what I would do, be careful. So 3460 is still the area that I'm going to be looking at. I've been looking at this since yesterday, the afternoon session. So 3460 is still the level, but at the same time, I'm aware of the activity that's happening in the market is not necessarily actual position trading or actual people. Let's just say that. It's not always going to be people. There will be active programs involved in the trading. That is one game where programs are prevalent. The futures market, it is heavily on the programs. So right now, there's no conviction either way, and it's just a program's having fun in between 3480 looks like and 3468. So I would just wait it out. There's nothing that's been said that requires or has initiated actual people to want to start trading heavy positions just yet. So it's just a matter of patience. He's still talking, we're still waiting, and the programs are just going to have some fun in between.
Yeah, just worth mentioning there, guys. Obviously, have your levels, have your areas you want to be involved with, and wait for that trade to set up. Let's go on to Moxie and Incorporated. Anyone looking at this Moxie in the pre-market? A little bit of M&A activity this morning. They're picking up BTAB Group. This is an all-share deal, so they will issue a whole bunch of both Class A and Class B shares in an effort to acquire BTAB Group here. So Moxie to the upside on that news this morning, guys, in a big way here. Yeah, 72% almost.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those, like I usually have a play that I like for an all-share in the acquisition company, and that would be sort of to watch them using your shares. You're probably going to have a bit of a sell-off. It did give that into $3. I like to see that off the open, and then I look for some consolidation to buy, especially if there's a solid basis for that deal and their continuing growth. And this sort of already happened in Moxie, and I'm not going to take it at 750. It's just not necessarily the style I'm looking for. But it's given me a support level at 3. I'm looking at the 260 area. Not much to see when you go to the higher time frame, until you get below that $2 price. That $2 to $2.20 maybe gives you the range. We're just so far away from it now that I have to pay attention to any reversal into that $3 area. Maybe there's a ramp there that we can go off of, and it's going to be in play today at 13 million. This is not going to be one of these ones where I'm going to be overly aggressive chasing the sell-off. I like it much better in VBIV as opposed to in an M&A deal. That's not usually where I try to do that gap up retracement play at all.
For me, Moxie, I've got one level marked off, which is just under 260, $2.57. I like the action that's happening around that 270 going down to 260. So I've marked that off as an area to keep an eye on. Of course, we're nowhere near close by to that area level. And I also would not step in at these prices at the moment. If anything, 390 break pushes you to 4 even. So that's only going to be about 10 cents before you run into a round number. That's a no-go for me up there. So what I'm going to be looking to do is when we get under 320 going to 310, if we can start to settle in, I think that's worth a shot with 257 as your stop there.
Speaking of, Neil mentioned VBI vaccines. They announced they've narrowed their search as far as, so all of these vaccine companies working on a COVID-19 vaccine obviously start with numerous different vaccines and start to narrow them down to one to focus on. They've now narrowed theirs down to 3. So they've come up with 3 that have shown what they are calling positive results on initial tests. Phase 1/2 trial expected to launch, clinical trial expected to launch by the end of this year for VBIV, guys.
Yeah, and look, just because you have some of these names that are lagging in terms of timelines, right? Like you're going to get, some of these with results. I think it's Novavax, like in December, they're looking to possibly get approvals, and then the best case for, Pfizer and AstraZeneca, like maybe that October area, November, to get their results from phase 3. So yeah, VBIV is lagging in that regard, but it doesn't mean it can't get its own gap up. All I look at here is successive moves to the upside on the daily chart that have all been retraced, each time. We did bounce sort of shy of this last move to like 480 into this like 450 range, which was the second day retracement, and then look at that clean top right at that 455. So if I see that, I'm going to be jumping into a short trade once we fail at a lower high. That's what I've already done at 433. First level takes them off, on a 420 break into that sort of 4 to 420 range. I'm going to hold on to a third of this. It's a pre-market trade, guys, so I'm not going to hold the entire boat for a 4-even break now. A lot of times at 9:30, you'll get that test up, and if it breaks the high day, I'm out. If it gives me another rollover, that's where I would jump in, and usually that's going to be for a larger position size because I trust liquidity after the open a little bit more. So that's why I'm taking profit here. I still think we can get that 4 break. I just need to see this happen off the open.
Oh, so yeah, before we get into VBIV I'm just going to make a quick comment on the futures. It looks like there's some active volume coming into the futures finally now. I think the programs have chosen a direction, and the people have also chosen a direction. All the players have joined in on the fun on the upside. So we are now pushing 86 even. How to trade this? My closest level I mentioned to you guys is 34.60. So I don't really have. There's no way I'm going to put up 25 points with this kind of activity with the pre-market open coming in. So I'm just going to wait it out. If this sets in and we can get ourselves back under 75 with an actual support buy there, I'm going to step in there around 75 with the 34.60 as the stop. Quick look on VBIV. I got $33.40. That's just underneath the high from yesterday, I believe the 26th yesterday. There's a lot of activity around 350, also the day before. So 340 for me. If we can get underneath 380, I think there's an active location there to buy with 340 as a stop.
One of the comments, guys, looks like in regards to the 2% benchmark. So they're basically saying they won't hesitate to act at any time if inflation ever gets above that 2% benchmark. So that was looking like what kind of caused that first initial move to the upside for the overall market. Just seeing a move on Beyond Meat here. Just seeing Beyond Meat popping up. Let's jump over real quick. We'll do this live. That is NTAP, going to be the next one we talk about. Yeah, a little bit of a spike here in BYND. I'll have a look at that. Let's talk about NetApp, though, the data storage company reporting earnings as well that were better than expected. 73 cents per share, up from 65 cents a year ago. Overall sales of $1.3 billion, up from $1.24 billion in the same period a year ago as well. So NTAP to the upside today.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have a look there. I just got to update you guys, position update. You're going to see me in Lee Auto, 22 even break. We didn't quite get to that one, but I promised myself I was going to trade this. Not necessarily instead of Neo, but in addition to that one as well. And I think, NetApp, all I had written down here, because the volume was very low, it's only 160 million in pre-market action, but I did have a 45 area for a bit of support, and it's then you can see at the bottom of the pre-market, in addition to going back and looking at this tight range that it was in between 40 and 45 with a couple of wicks above this, but it's breaking out of that range. So I would expect to see 45 possibly turn into support. And that's what happens when you get a bit of a range break. This is exactly the kind of catalyst that you would need. And you toss in the Fed's actions here and maybe people chasing some of the growth space here. And I think that's going to give you a nice opportunity to use 45 as a base of operations. Now, Lee Auto gave me a break through its range. I don't know that I'll get that support price given what we just saw in the futures, and then we're ramping up $1.50. But that was the level that I really liked, so I would like to see a test that price. I'm not going to be jumping into this. Otherwise, it's too low on the volume chain for me with only 160,000 in the pre-market to be chasing it.
Okay, for me in NTAP, I've got 48 on the top end, 45 on the bottom. Fairly sideways action, I think, in between that range. So I'll just wait it out. If we can get a breakout either direction, I'm going to be willing to step in. I am going to make a quick comment, though. Microsoft, with the futures running, given that I can't catch the futures, but there are some trades that I can catch. Microsoft, I'm looking to get into Microsoft on the break just above 2210, which was a high from yesterday. With 222 is the entry that I'm looking for. And 220 is going to be the stop once I get in, if I get that fill. I mean, the spread is large. I am sitting there across multiple levels waiting for that fill. So we'll see how that comes through.
Just saw gold moving around too, guys, on this futures move. Here's the headline, guys, for Beyond Meat. If we can throw up my screen there. Yeah, they're launching an e-commerce, direct mail e-commerce site, so you can go to the site and order your Beyond Burgers or whatever you like from Beyond Meat, and they'll ship it right to your door. So a nice little look there for Beyond Meat, getting a little bit of a bid on that note this morning. Abercrombie & Finch, A&F, we'll go to retail world because there's been some interesting moves in some of the retailers over the past couple of weeks or so. They reported better than expected quarterly sales, beating top and bottom here. Net income attributed to the company was $5.5 million or 9 cents per share. That compared with a loss of $31.1 million in the same period last year. There was a note as well, guys. Obviously, all of these have been the same, but online digital sales through the roof for ANF.
Yeah, that sort of goes without saying. I don't think anybody's going to be particularly surprised by that outcome by Abercrombie. But I think looking at the daily time frame, you do have the last time we were in this price range. 1270 was an interesting level for a couple of reasons, sessions. If you go back to like June, and you go back to April as well. So holding above that price, I think, will be important. Looking at this rally in the ES and then seeing the gap up and no continuation yet in Abercrombie, I think holding below that price is going to make me want to sell into this gap, but it would only be to that 1270. I think that's why I like to go to the higher time frame so that you can see here. I'm not going to be that much interested in holding any short to like a 13. It's going to be, if I gap fill short, it's going to be only in front of that 1270 price. I think you have a breakout through there, sort of ignoring some of these low volume wicks you see to the upside. A breakout for me would be at 1270 on Abercrombie & Finch and ignore the pre-market high at 1320.
Absolutely, I agree with Neil on there. 1270 on the top. I've got 1190 on the bottom. So either way we go, I'm going to step in there. As long as there's a lot that I've marked off for alerts here. So as long as that happens where I'm not actually paying attention to it, then definitely 1270 on the top, 1190 on the bottom.
Let's get another look before we get to the open here, Arun, as far as the market is concerned overall. Anything changed or what's going to be the plan here at the open?
I mean, this market's obviously made a huge run here. At this point, chasing it is a bad idea, I think, especially the open. And now, here's the problem: you can chase this, and this thing can continue, or this will come back. This could come back pretty aggressively. So what I'm going to do is I'm deciding not to chase this. I don't want to be a part of this action. I'm not willing to pay 30 points for a trade that's running into 3,500 fairly soon. So what I'm going to do, if it comes back into 3480, 3475, and starts to settle in, I'm okay putting up 20 points in risk, knowing that 3,500 is above us. So in terms of risk reward, that's 1-to-1. I do want to mention, though, with these markets, especially with these types of situations, there could easily be one move in or a direction in one a move in one direction that is completely reversed. That's also a possibility after the open. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying just be aware in the event that we start getting aggressive, then that's a possibility, and that's why I'm not going to chase it. So 34.80 is the area I'm looking to get in now with 34.60 as a stop.
All right, guys, let's talk about Clovis Oncology, a name we've traded on the show before. Up this morning, they've one of their companies that they're working with developing a liquid tumor biopsy treatment, so they can biopsy a tumor now based on a liquid application. Pretty amazing stuff. But that has been approved by the FDA. So popping up on that news, still 11% here, but fading this back to the downside. I'll show you why I like this so much. The daily chart is very weak. Obviously, this goes all the way back to, what is this, May. So since May, this thing has been very weak, kind of grinding back to the downside. So the only problem with this trade is you got to go all the way up here to 6 and then 650 above that before you get into any kind of real resistance. So this thing's already come quite significantly off the highs, obviously, but watch 575, 580 above that. Next stop would be 6 and then 650 on Clovis, guys.
Thanks a lot there, Brent. I do want to update you guys on Li Auto, and I talked about this sort of off the bat at the beginning of the show. You had the ramp up in NEO and then a failed break at the end of the day on NIO. It couldn't get back to that high, but Li Auto broke through at 21 and went parabolic right at the close before coming back in. It's going to hold this retracement range. You had all this sort of consolidation between 21.60 and 22. And then we get this 22 break here. I took this one as sort of last second, try to get it to you guys live. Thank you, DJ Dini. I'm going to get to AL and UAL in a quick second here. But I do have that break. I've taken out half already for the scalp trade in front of 22.50. Target is going to be looking for a 23 break off the open and then getting out shy of the high of yesterday's afternoon action. I've slid my stop now into the 21.80 range to make sure I lock in this profit. So it's been a good one already. Look, it's so much to get to, guys, and I feel like you got to be able to talk about the sort of recovery plays as well, and that's going to be American Airlines. And it's interesting, we did get the ramp up here. I still feel like you need the stimulus bill to see whether or not they're gonna extend some of the relief that the U.S. government gave to them on the payroll side there. But that being said, American Airlines is sort of primed for what I think will be a better break through like 14.30 at some point. It's got to get there first. There's obvious support, I think, that's going to form in that 12.60 to 13 area that we're ramping in front of right now. So I do like the opportunity to be able to take a break through the top on AAL. But if it sells off, you get a shot, and I'm going to get a shot at this like 12.90 to 13.05 range. The bottom end of that range. If it bounces down there, that's something I really want to be picking up in AAL. So if it does any kind of a retracement, I think that's better for a big position than like a 13.65 break off the top.
Okay, so a couple things I'm going to quickly do is Microsoft, I've still got that bid there just above on that break of 222. Also, I'm also willing to step into FSLY, just breaking 90.50 with 89.50 on the stop. Neil, did you want to talk about UAL and AAL?
I just grabbed the AAL there. I think I'll repeat the similar sentiments in the UAL. I love the pullback opportunity. I don't love the breakout at this price at the top after having missed that move. Brendan, got something?
Yeah, there's an IPO today, guys. We talked about this when it was first announced going back a week or two ago. XPeng, the latest EV maker to move into the space, coming to market today. So this is going to start trading in New York today. Looks like $15 was the price they settled on. They initially targeted 11 to 13. They increased the size, so more shares and a higher price at 15 today, guys. So XPeng starting today.
Yeah, you'll see one blank thing on my quote board here. Just I have it up there, and we'll be monitoring this whenever it does open. There's no guarantee at what time we'll get that IPO. Look, it could open up at 11:30, and there's just not much that we can do about it, guys. So we'll trade it live, and we'll see what opportunities do lie, and we'll talk all about it. But just to be going back to some of the names on our watch list here that we want to be covering, Abbott Labs. And I did mention this. I want this trade at 9:30. This is not a trade that I love doing in the pre-market, but here it is already. So you get the test through the top. It's a failure on the break through that 113.50 to 114 area. It comes back in. The only play I'm going to be able to look at now, because I'm not willing to make this trade in pre-market volumes, is to see if it pulls back and gives me a retest of what now is a 114.30 high. So that would still give me the same target area entry, like a 13 to 13.50, but sort of a one and done. Congratulations to anybody that wanted to step in front of that. There's decent volume here in the pre-market. I just didn't want to jump in and take it. It's that whole just sell any sort of gap up in one of those COVID names. A minute to go here, guys. I still have half that Li Auto. It's coming back back a little bit to that 22.20, and VBIV is only in the money about 20 cents or so, 4 even, running into some resistance there.
Yeah, and I've also stepped into FSLY. I mentioned to you guys 90.50. That bid got filled. I'm still waiting on MSFT as well in front of 222. So those are the only 2 positions, only 2 orders I've got active. And once the market opens, I'll get a better understanding of which positions I want to get into. Keep in mind, ABT, I'm also looking at 109.75 on the break on ABT, and that's moving towards 111, getting closer and closer to that level. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just not a lot of time left, guys. I want to get over to Abercrombie and Finch with only seconds to go. Just worth noting, we're at that 1270 level, so we might actually get this one very quickly off the open. I have my order locked and loaded, so Abbott Labs, A&F here, Abercrombie, Lee Auto I'm watching as well, but drop that bell. There's Randy, Mr. Turbo, 3, 2, and 1. Don't break it, Randy. Be gentle. I don't know why I asked Randy to be gentle with it. I know he's going to absolutely hammer the crap out of it. So Lee Auto immediately stops the rest out. And again, this is why I like to take the profit, because in pre-market trades, I feel like you're going to get whipped around here. So I do get in. We do get a ramp to the upside. I wanted to try to let the rest roll. I have close to a break-even stop at the 2180. Now I want to see if we can hold the bottom. If Lee Auto holds this 2140 bottom, I'm going to look to see if I can't bounce along a secondary long off of that low. But right now, the spread is the story. 20 penny spread. I don't want to jump in and pay the spread. I want to see some consolidation in front of that low. Give me a solid entry point with some actual liquidity, and I'll go long in front of 2140. But we're 1 for 1 on Lee Auto. VBIV is headed southbound, but I've already taken the profit that I'm going to take. It's already a nice winner at 433, heading for a 4 even break, guys.
Yeah, and you know what? FSLY is now dollar in the money here, just in front of 92 is where my first target is. I only risked $1 for this. I'm perfectly okay getting $1.50 on this move. Microsoft also got filled. 220 is the stop on there. What do you got, Brendan?
Early strength in some of the airlines, guys. Both AAL and Dow popping up right away at the open there. We just came back down through 31 for DAL, but some of the airlines showing early strength, guys.
Yeah, and there's the bounce in Abercrombie and Finch there. A&F, we have the long at 73 we got on that break. So not much slippage at all. We talked about that 1270 level. That was what we were going to be liking. So we did jump in. I'm not taking anything out yet. I wanted to see it test 13 even before I took any quick profit. If it wants to pull back into that 40 to 50 range, not a horrible place to consider adding here. I am now looking at Lee Auto in that 2140 area. Looks like it's trying to hold. So I am going to try to step back into that one at a better price. We already went 1 for 1 on that name, but I like the opportunity to maybe double dip price action on Lee Auto. I want to jump over to American Airlines, and I did say that I much preferred a dip buy as opposed to taking off the top. It's trying to take that top now and running into a little bit of trouble. So I would at least consider the idea that 1335 and forget about it. It just took the top off there. I only want to go small on this one. I just don't necessarily feel like picking the absolute top was as good as the reversal buying that dip. I was sort of more interested in.
Okay, so here's a couple updates here. Microsoft, that is coming through. Again, 220 is a stop, 222, just in front of 222 is the entry. We're going to leave that alone. And the big winner right now, FSLY, is $2.10 in the money. Guys, I got in at 90.5 on this break. I've already cashed out in front of 92. I got to figure out how to manage this as this reaches the top end of the range. Mind you, the top end of the range is only $1 away. So how do we manage this? I'm going to dip down to a smaller time frame chart, knowing what we're expecting above. I'm going to find 91.40 is the last time we hesitated. That's going to be the trailing stop on this. That locks in another 90 cents on this trade after already making $1.50 on the first half. So we're going to leave that alone. Microsoft is coming in. Leave that alone as well. Netflix, I'm keeping an eye on Netflix at 534 even. This is going to be one of those trades that's going to require a lot of risk to step in, so maybe some less shares here. 540 is going to be the stop. Risk about $10. Given what Netflix has done yesterday, I think there's a lot of potential for this to actually kind of go down. A lot of space for it to go down. So we'll leave that alone as well. And futures are coming back into that 80. So you know what? I got to switch over to the futures, keep an eye out, and see where we can potentially get into this here. Looks like the market is rejecting that move from the upside move. Remember, I said there's a potential for this to happen when they actually open and they turn around in a hurry. So with Microsoft turning, Netflix breaking, and the futures starting to come in, I'm going to keep a real close eye on those NASDAQ futures as well to see what's going to happen here. What do you got, Brendan?
Another virus-related mover here, AIM Immunotech to the upside big time, 12.5 for almost 13% now. Just broke through 250 there right at the open. They released some more data on treatment that they're working on for COVID-19 patients. Guys.
Yeah, I want to jump back over to Abbott Labs very, very quickly. I did get that retracement play, the only one I could put on. I got 113 to the south side here on Abbott Labs, 113.15 technically. I am willing to add one time in front of it at that 113.50 area target that we like. Lee Auto broke to the downside, so we got busted out of that. Our second long play in Lee is not going to work out. I do have a reentry in VVIV as well coming back up. 455 is the breakout high. That's what I would take to the long side if I got it. But dug into Abbott Labs to get the retracement. I'm not going to hold it past high of day. I'm looking to see if we can retest at least halfway before I take any shares off, and then look at that low of day right now sitting at 10.60, not the pre-market, but we're talking about the opening range bottom there. American Airlines is trying to sustain this breakout. I do feel like if I'm going to put my scalping hat on, I want to take maybe a little bit out if it does come back up and retest that 80 to 85 range. But so far the break is holding. It's just not as explosive as I would have liked. So I am going to take some profit off here and look for an opportunity to be buying back into VWAP, or right now more concerned with 1350. VWAP not that relevant at this time of day.
Yeah, for me, a couple things that popped off on my radar was ANF through that 1270. I'm not a fan of that type of move, so I'm going to pull ANF off the radar, and I'm actually going to I'm going to pull up the chart for NTAP here. I really like how this is moving here through the 45 even level. So you know what? I'm going to step in and go ahead and find a screen for this and actually step into a short here in front. If I can just do this very quietly, I'm going to put an offer out here, see if we can get a fill very quietly. Of course, I don't want to chase it given how much I'm going to have to risk. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to risk about $2, but given how thin it is, I don't want to scare this market away from me. So, hey, you know what? Microsoft is a hit, so we're going to move away from Microsoft. Looks like the market's turning. Maybe I don't want to step into the futures long just yet. It looks like there's some activity on the sell side here through these 80s. So we're going to wait this one out as Microsoft is going. What do you got, Brandon?
Square, guys, moving early on here as well. 2.5% to the upside still, but we got a huge rejection up there at 160, right back down to 157. There was a couple of analyst moves on this one, including an initiation at a buy rating with a 200 price target on Square today, guys, so up 3%.
It's what I do. It's just one of those things that I love. It's this retracement play on these virus names to the upside. Again, it's going to be Abbott Labs this time, and it's a testing instead of a vaccine play. But you get a defined top, you get a failure at that high, able to jump back in, not chase it because we missed the pre-market move, but able to step back in when it retests that high. I do get some shares there at 113.15 and 65. I take some out, midway through, just like we anticipated. So dollar winner on the first half. Sitting in the money, looking for a push down to 111 where we can get a $2.50 winner on the rest of these shares. I'm not greedy, and I'm going to hold enough that I'm going to hold it through this bottom. Like I said, I'll just take it out in front if we get the opportunity. But nice win here over in Abbott Labs. Brennan, what do you got, buddy?
We saw record highs 2 days in a row for NIO, guys. Big flush here at the open from $20 down to 19, just trying to bounce at 19. But also that XPeng, as we said, coming into this group today. So a little bit of pressure on NIO today, guys.
Competition for you there. So another leg out near that bottom. It looks like we're going to get everything that we want here out of Abbott Labs. You're going to see me jump out a couple of times. We'll line it up. We'll knock it out of the park here, fortunately, with this retracement trade. And again, we actually dropped a video on retracements. This is one of the plays that I absolutely love. And you can hold on to this. I think there's all kinds of different styles of trade you can do. If I make this play, it's very defined the range that I'm looking for. I'm shorting off of that top. If it had been no test until the open, I probably would have had it off of this 1350 level or so. But because it gave me that defined area, that's what we short off of. I'm out in front of that previous low a day. If it holds that price, great. Otherwise, now I'm probably looking at the same level Arun is off the bottom. A bottom break is a secondary trade for me at this point on Abbott Labs, now that we're one and done to the short side. Brennan, what do you got?
Big mover from yesterday, this FlowDime, FLDime, down 15% today. So big gap down. We're starting to push away from 10, but watch this $10 even up here. If we get any kind of bounce into 980 even, might be worth a shot on FLDM, guys.
All right, guys, just an update on the NTAP. I've already taken a fill on NTAP here, just underneath 45. We did it very quietly, just in front, 45 here. 46 is the stop. It's about $1. I actually thought it was a lot more in terms of risk, but it's only $1 in risk. But hey, you know what? The downside is all the way here. I'm looking back to the 25th, the high of the 25th, which sits in front of 43. So I'm looking about 43 as the first target. Of course, that could change depending on the action, but 43 is the first target. And of course, after I get out of FSLY, it decides to turn. I told you trailing stop was 91.40. I don't need to hold this within this range if it decides to turn around at any point. So I'm out, fully out. We made $1.50 on the first half and it looks like about 40 to 50 cents on the second half. And now it's taking off the top. Great, fine, let it go. It is what it is at that point. But hey, you know what? Netflix, I'm keeping an eye on this 534. If this comes through 534 again for the second time, that's a golden short for me. 534 on the short side, 540 on the top on the stop. That's the trade I'm looking at right now. And you know what? They're going right through it. So we're going to step in here onto Netflix. This spread is so thin that I think I can put an order out at a price that I really want and get filled, because I am not going to chase this thing all the way down. It's already at 532. It's breaking fast. It's expensive. It's moving wildly. So we're going to have to control our risk on this trade. I'm already risking about $6 for this trade, so I'm okay waiting on this one there. What do you got, Brendan?
We mentioned some of the airlines moving early on. Here's Love, guys. Southwest just coming up on a day high. Scanner just broke $38 there on a volume spike for Love, guys.
Yeah, I'm starting to have to rethink, the whole short idea on Rocket. And we talk about this one turning into a short play. But that 28 level that I was watching from yesterday, I totally wrote this one off this morning, not thinking we're going to get it. And then we get the breakthrough 28. So this was a price that I was interested in here. It's gonna have to hold some consolidation above. It's already given you one parabolic move up here, guys. But watch for yesterday's top. 28.50 would be the next leg to the upside. Consolidation, maybe a scalp here to get to that 30, and then a 28.50 break. I'll be on Rocket. Brendan, what do you have?
Another day, another all-time high for this one. Big C, 3 days now in a row. This was the news day. They came out saying they were teaming up with Facebook for some e-commerce work. Up to 160 now, guys, for Big C.
Did you say 160 on Big C? Wow, that is an unbelievable mover. I'm going to take a quick look here in Rocket, just in front of like a 27.75 to 80 area. See if I can take that one into the high. But, I see you guys talking about NIO and NEO today. And I was favoring Li Auto. I feel like that was for a solid reason. But when you talk about the higher time frame on NIO, it's just sort of worth noting how far it has come up there. Let's look at this level right here. It's about 18.50 or so, and then down to this 18.20. That's going to be an interesting range. If NEO falls into that, maybe it runs into some support. I'm a little bit surprised that American Airlines has held up here for me. I did take profit on half of it and had expected to almost get stopped out at that 13.50 area around what is now VWAP. It does seem like it wants to make a run at the high. I'm very likely to just get flat in front of 14 if it gives me that 30-cent scalp, and then look for 14 even break on AAL. I like to scalp it on the way up. It's not a stock that usually I'll hold on to. I take profits on the way. Brendan, what do you got?
Cruise lines as well. In addition to the airlines going here, NCLH Norwegian up 8.8%. Look at that breakthrough. 16.50, guys. We're up to above 17. Coming into some significant resistance, though, on a daily chart for NCLH, but cruise line strong as well.
Okay, guys, just an update here. Also, SRNE has taken 780, so I've stepped in and gone ahead and gone short on this. 830 is a stop. That's about 50 cents in risk. We're going to let that one ride out. They're all coming back. All the trades that I've stepped into actually are coming back a little bit, especially Netflix here. Remember, I stepped in front of 534. It is aggressively coming back. That is perfectly fine. This is what this stock does, but I do like that setup. So if I got to take the hit on that setup, that is what it is. And NTAP, just sitting around 45 even. That is where I'm short. We're looking for this to go down to 43. That's the first target. 46 is your stop on that one there. And of course, we're just waiting on the rest of them. Oh, you know what? mRNA just popped off on my radar here. mRNA, I believe, broke through the 68.50 bottom that 67.50 area that I had marked off. There's no trade immediately on mRNA, but that is definitely a chart that to keep an eye on. I had marked off, this is the 5-minute chart. I'm going to mark it off 67.50. This gets underneath that 68.50 low, the midday low or the mid-morning low here, and through this activity here in the pre-market, not pre-market, we're around 10 o'clock or so. 67.50 gets into that area. So what that does is opens up that 69.50 now for me to find a short. So I'm going to go ahead and mark off an area here, 69.50. No immediate trade there. We are going to wait for this one to play itself out, but I am now actively looking for shorts in front of 68.50 to 69, with 69.50 as a stop on mRNA.
I want to quickly take you guys back to VBIV. First short good, second half blown out there through that 455 pre-market high. I'm showing you the daily chart so you can see this 485, 486 area from just earlier in August, a couple of weeks ago, guys. If it does fail to break this, I will jump into another short on a rollover type trade. Otherwise, it's sort of a random price. That's why I wanted to see why I would be breaking long in front of $5. It's just what I see there on the daily. But if it wants to roll over first, I'm going to take one shot at a failure through that price. It's going to be the second short of the day. Sorry, the third short of the day. First pre-market good. Second one, no good whatsoever. And I actually missed my stop at 455 and had to manually get out a couple of times to find some liquidity there. That one's all on me. Got to have your stop order correctly with the right gateway. That's what I did wrong. Brendan, what do you got?
Strength also coming from the banks, guys. Just noticed JPM here up 2%, coming into decent levels as well on the daily chart around that 101 area. Watch 101 here for JPM, but Citigroup also moving, guys.
Alrighty, guys, we're getting closer and closer to that exit on Netflix. Netflix, remember 540, I put up $6. I like the setup. Given what kind of potential this stock had, that was something I had to do. But it looks like that's going to be a flush. But you know what? ABT is now setting up 109.75 is going to be that exit, or not that exit, that entry that I'm looking for on ABT going into this gap. So this one I'm looking for at least $6 in potential. Of course, because it is a gap, I'm going to be actively keeping an eye on this and actively managing it, because at any point, this market can pick up a bid inside this gap. So 109.75 is going to be the break point for me on the short side, and 112 is going to be the stop for that trade there.
Yeah, and I just want to jump back up to Rocket, and I'm going to show you why I will take off a quick little 20-cent scalp on the first half of this trade. Risking 20 to try and break through that 20 range. It was a previous high. From there, the second half of this, and then again, if you're going to be scalp trading, you got to have some targets here. I'm looking at 35 to 45 as a range in front of this previous yesterday's 28.50 top. I'd look for a 28.50 break as well. So multiple ways that I will get into this trade on the long side. I'm not looking for any dip buys at this point. I'm just going to be all out if it breaks 27.80 here, but I'm looking to test this into yesterday's top now that we're going through today's high again on Rocket. It's been a bit of a rocket ship there. I do want to jump us very quickly back to a couple of other names that are moving that I might not have mentioned. You're going to see Win moving to the upside, guys. Obviously, it's a solid play. It's a good breakout trade. Anyone that's sort of holding this one, I was looking at this and I just didn't quite see the volume to like it. Win has only done 500,000 shares, so at the time, pre-market volume non-existent. I looked at an 86.20 break and didn't take it, but you are seeing a great technical break on Win happening right now. Some fundamental reasons as well to watch this. I would be looking at a 90.50 as an ultimate sort of a resistance target, or 90 area, 90.50 to the upside, just going to that higher time frame. I did jump back into VBIV, as I said, not off of $5, sort of not off of the current high of the day, but when we went to that daily chart off of sort of a randomish 486 price, guys, and that's exactly 485 price. That's exactly what has held so far. You are seeing me dip in front of it. There's some consolidation here. I will be long VBIV if it breaks that 85, and I'll likely maybe add to that position through a 5 even break, but I'm going to test this consolidation short. If it rolls over here, I mean, ultimately, I actually want to pick up some more shares if I can to the short side. If it rolls over here, I probably do not take any profit till like 450, and then from there back into this 430 range where I was shorting originally.
So what I'm going to do with the ABT, guys, remember 109.75 is the area I'm keeping an eye on. 109.75, and the potential stop, if that breaks, is 112. So what I've gone ahead and done is I've already marked off that 112. So if we come back through that 112, I'm actually willing to step into the long here and use 109.75 as the stop. So now there's two trades here available. The breakout through 112 gives you 109.75 on the stop, and the 109.75 breaks gives you 112 as a stop. That is kind of the congestion that I've marked off that I'm going to work with for now. And of course, as we're talking, NTAP is coming down, as well as SRNE, of course, and Netflix flipped around, went through and got me out at just above 540. I'm done with Netflix. I don't like the activity anymore. That was more than wild activity. I can't read it anymore, so I'm going to walk away and find other trades to do. Brandon, what do you got?
What a move on this QDEL, guys. QDEL on the NASDAQ, 36% to the downside, coming into 140. It was trading yesterday above 225. This is in the same group as Abbott Laboratories. They were also working on a similar COVID-19 test that Abbott has now beat them to market with. So huge move down here for QDEL, guys.
We're going to drop a backflip for you guys. I had one level written down on AAL here at American Airlines, and it was 1370. It does give you that off the open. I did miss an opportunity to slip some shares back in on this little bounce. This is a problem. Like, you see this wick? This is a 1 minute chart. Look at how thin we are below that 55. You really want to try to catch on the way back, but trust me, there was not as much liquidity as you think on the way back up. And I don't like taking this on the way down. You want to catch more shares on the way back up. So that's what precludes you from having possibly a larger position size. I will take it out in front of 14. I am going to break long at 14 even. I'm also going to be looking for that 1350 area to give me some consolidation. But I have to also get you guys over to Rocket. We did talk about this name dipping back in at 28. It held 2780. We just got a test of 29 here, so you do get that break at 2850 that we're looking for. I'm not going to trail my stop on this one. I've sort of gotten into trouble with random trailing stops. I want to see if we can't hold this one back through break even. Otherwise, if we double tap 29 and can't get through, I'll take profit there, looking for a dollar winner or so, and then maybe use 29 as a breakout. So that's going to be the idea for me. We're in the money 60 pennies, but I do want to see if we can get a much bigger move, maybe breaking 29 into that 30 range on Rocket. We're in the money in VBIV as well. But Brennan, what do you have for us?
Just watch Microsoft here, guys. A number of reports coming out suggesting that the sale, TikTok sale to Microsoft, could come within the next 24 to 48 hours. So just watching Microsoft, guys.
Of course, Microsoft would do that, right? I had this position earlier, and of course, look at that shake, guys. 222, go all the way through 220, and now it's going to 223. Nice timing there, Microsoft, on doing that move. But yeah, okay, here, we're back to reality here. A couple positions here. I've got NTAP on the short side. We're just underneath 45. That's 20 cents out. And we got SRNE just in front of 780, so that's flat there. And I am actively looking at ABT, trying to figure out what to do here. I wanted that long above 112, but it is backing off fairly quickly, so you know what? Maybe not just yet. What I might do is just actually pull this over, pull that action level out. 109.75 is going to be the level I'm looking at now. I want to see how this plays through this 112 now. If we can actually settle in and actually catch a bid, then maybe that long is still there. Otherwise, 109.75 has to be the break there. Microsoft is gone. I don't know what to do. There's no other stocks that are coming off on my radar here, so I'm going to flip through this and find some more trades. I know BYND is going absolutely nuts right now.
It's going nuts, but I drew a line in the sand here on VBIV, and again, this is why you want to tune into the watch list. This was on our watch list. I gave a couple of levels for you here, and it was a very random-ish price at 485, 486. We sort of showed you why I liked it on the daily time frame there, so I do get blown out of the second short, one win, one loss. We jump back and roll into some shares here at 475. I just said I would take some out in front of that previous pre-market top. That's what I've gone ahead and done for the 20 penny win. If it breaks 450, I feel like we are going to get a test back down to that 20 to 25 range. That's where I'd conclude that position if we can get it. I can also tell you that all this time, we do have the position board that you guys can see. I did get out of American Airlines thinking maybe there could be a dip off of 14. So I cover it at 96. It goes right away. So I end up breaking back into the long at 01s. And I understand logically for some people that might not make sense that I'm going to give up 5 pennies of a move. But if I'm going to be scalp trading, that's part of the game here, guys. So I'm going to give up that 5 cents on the off chance that I'm going to get a chance at a reload at like 1370 to 1380, the price that I liked originally. It doesn't happen here, and with my style, I'm going to be willing to pay that 5 pennies. I do jump back in on the 14 break, just took some out in the teens. I do see a bit of a seller here in front of that 20 that I might want to jump out of. I just did jump out of some more shares at 18 just because I saw a seller on level 2 at 20. I would have normally done that at 25, but I'll just take it out here. If it breaks 25, I think we're going possibly to the moon here with the market coming back up, testing those highs. Come on, 3,500. Brennan, what do you got?
Yeah, here goes Microsoft, guys. All-time highs here for Microsoft. Just went from 225 to above 226 here in a hurry. Now 2.3% for Microsoft, guys.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, as the futures has bounced off that area I was looking off, I was just looking at it just to make sure the confirmation was there. I wanted around 34.80. Going with 34.60. You know what? I might not get that price, so I may have to pay up a little bit. The way I'm going to enter this, now that I have the confirmation that I need in this area, is I'm going to have to try and average this price out because I do not want to pay up to 34.85, knowing that 3,400, 3,500 is just above. So I'm risking about 25 to make 15, potentially more than that, but 15 at the minimum, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building a position now. I don't normally do this, but in this situation, I'm going to have to build a position because I want the trade, but I don't want to pay up this much of a price for all of it. So I'm going to start bidding in through 34.85, going down to 34.80, picking up contracts along the way with 34.60 as a stop. This market is completely on a tear, especially with Microsoft taking off now at 228. Absolutely on fire. What do you got, Brendan?
Watch this PED on the NYSE ARC exchange here, up 156%. This one was on the watch list, guys. Little oil and gas company picking up another smaller penny stock in a deal this morning. So PED just popping up on a volume scanner here, guys.
PED is on PEDs apparently with that ramp up off the open. And yeah, there you go. I'm trying to improve my pun game. I realize that's horrible, but if you can do better, just let me know. Look, I'm going to be watching this one. I did have some levels on PED. I know we didn't get to them necessarily in the pre-market, but none of them involved anything up past that sort of 220 range. I did have only about 2 even that I was looking at. You do get that break, but it had already extended too big of a move to the upside and want to be jumping in front of it. I want to see it roll back down below that price before I even think about shorting in PED. It's got to come back below what was previous resistance. We're holding above it right now, so I'm going to have to stay away, at least in the short term. It did roll to the top here, 225. Putting in a lower high that could sustain some selling below this 2 even range. Then I would jump into a retracement short, but I'm not going to fight this one, guys. It's entirely too strong. AAL just came back through break even, so I do take some out in front of that quarter, final third break even trade through 14 on American Airlines.
Okay, and a trade that just came off on my radar, MOXC, just below that 260, that 257 area. You know what? That's going to be a tight trade for me. So MOXC, I'm going to step in just underneath 260 with 280 as a stop. It's not going to cost me a whole lot. It's just going to be 20 cents in shares, 20 cents in risk there. I do want to update you guys on the futures there. You can start seeing, I've started entering bids here. Well, 1 bid so far. I want to see the activity below 85 to see whether I can actually step in a little bit lower or I may have to pay up a little bit more. But 85 is where I'm going to start building my position. Just in front of 85 actually is where I'm going to start building my position while I go ahead and start entering my orders on MOXC. Of course, Microsoft, guys, absolutely on a tear. At that point, the read is gone. I thought I had the read. You know what? It was right, but it was off by about 10 minutes. So, hey, sometimes time. It's not sometimes, all the time. Timing matters. And in this case, I got that one wrong by 10 minutes there.
Yeah, I mean, timing's not the only thing that matters. So someone had asked how we're able to short in VBI, how I'm able to short in VBIV. Our broker, you know, through DayTrader, we have a huge list of sort of easy to borrow symbols that we can get locates on. And then even when we don't have those, we can pay for locates if we're willing to do that or want to pay for them. VBIV, we had them today. That's why I'm able to go short. But I can tell you, if you're watching PED, that one just broke that too, and I couldn't get them because they were unavailable for us. So as much as you can usually see me shorting all these names, we got a good one on here in VBIV, unable to do so in PED. I'm going to keep checking back in because I like it below that $2 range. I'm going to see if I can't take some more shares off here in VBIV. I just got some out at 59, so I did double dip back in front of that 86 level or 85, 86, which I'm going to use all day long, hopefully, and I will break long if it breaks that price. Otherwise, covering in front of 450, trying to hold some for a move down to that 25 to 30 range. Rinse and repeat that action as long as it works for you. Rocket, on the other hand, you know, like I said, I'm trying to hold these ones a little bit longer. You know, maybe credit that to Arun sitting over there, maybe rubbing off on me a little bit. But if it's going to break that 27.80, I'm not going to hang on to this trade. It does give me an opportunity on consolidation down here at 28 to maybe pick some more shares up on the way back up. But I am looking to see if we can get back up to that 29 area. I really wanted to see it break 29 and then get on the other side of 29 even, thinking 30 was the actual resistance. Might be wrong on that one.
Yeah, you know, talking about being wrong, I'm going to put a couple charts up there side by side, and hopefully this is more of a lesson on how to trade when you make the right trade but make the wrong move at the same time. So Microsoft, that long, got out at 220. You see where this market is. And then I did the same thing with Netflix, got the 534 short, got out at just above 540, and you saw what happened. Hey, you know what? When this happens, it's part of your system, it's part of the losses. Just don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. It is part of the system, so I'm gonna have to move on. I'm gonna have to live with it really, and just move on and keep on trading. This happens a lot, especially if you're trading actively. This is gonna happen a lot to you, and so psychologically, don't let that interfere with your trading system. However you have it built, just keep on going. Right now, what I've got here, ES futures, I'm looking just in front of 85. I mentioned to you guys, NTAP, I've got that short just underneath 45. SRNE still kind of flirting with that 780. I've still got that short. And of course, ABT, guys, I'm keeping an eye on that 12 even level, 112 even level with 109.75. I'm trying to figure out what to do. There's potential for a long if this can actually start pick up some bids and go through here. At the same time, I don't want to step in it just yet because I want to really kind of keep an eye on this and see what's going on. But it is right here on my screen, on the main screen here. So I'm always looking at it just to make sure that I do not miss out on this. Of course, the alert to the downside is going to be coming up on my other screens, but at the same time, this move on the upside, that's not an alert that I can really set. That's more judging the actual action. So we're just going to keep an eye on this there, Brent, or Neil.
Yeah, and there goes a break on VBIV. So we're through that sort of 486 level. I took some shorts in front of it, took profit on the way down. So you're going to have an overall sort of like a break-even look on that trade. We need to sustain this probably through a $5 area. It's some psychological levels, and it might not matter on the chart there when I show you, but it is psychological. And there is a bit of a seller there at that price as I actually want to pull it up and show it to you guys. Just a bit of a seller, 200,000 shares, maybe a little bit more than that at 5 even. So you do run into that, and you do get at least a little bit concerned that it's going to try and turn around off that. So I will take a little bit of profit through and consider adding to my position on a 5 even break through VBIV. If we can hold support in and around the top end of this consolidation zone, 70 to 75, not a bad place to be adding to this breakout. What it looks like is a strong one on VBIV. Rocket, pigs get slaughtered. It's going to happen to you sometimes, and I'm going to hit this graphic because I haven't used it in a while, and I want you guys to tell me because football season's coming up. That doesn't look like me. It looks like Deshaun Watson, the quarterback on Houston. It definitely doesn't look like me, I can tell you that much. But on Rocket there, if I can actually find it finally on my board, I probably could have taken over close to $1 winner here at the top, or at least 60, 70 pennies on the way back in. I was thinking we're going to get another push to the upside, holding this 28 range. Didn't happen. We'll end up flat on the stock overall, unfortunately. It is time for, wow, it's 10 o'clock already? Wow, happening now with Brennan.
Hey guys, you got 10 o'clock. Let's have a look at North American markets. Another day, another positive showing for these. Number 6 in a row, in fact, for the S&P. 6 days in a row to the upside, 0.5%. 5 days in a row for the Dow, 0.9%. Almost a full percent now for the Dow. The NASDAQ kind of lagging here. We've seen tech stocks strong over the past couple of sessions. Trying to play catch up here, but lagging a little bit. The Russell, 0.37%. That was negative early on as well. The TSX here in Toronto, basically flat. Just actually went positive there after being negative for a period. Also, the BOVESPA down in Brazil, 0.8% back to the upside for Brazil stocks. Also, let's go over to what is moving around here in Toronto. Airlines, we mentioned off the top, strong down in the U.S. Here in Toronto, same story. Air Canada, 4+% to the upside. Nice look, 16.75. Up to above 1720. Big time volume behind that as well. Consolidating at day highs. Canada Goose out of nowhere having quite the day. 2.5%. 32.5 here. Nice little consolidation. Decent volume behind this move higher for Canada Goose as well. And some of the cannabis names popping up this morning. 2% for ACB, the smaller one. 1220 up to 1250 right now. Consolidating at day highs for ACB. Guys, nicely positive so far. Back to you.
Nice. Okay, so you know what I've gone ahead and done? I actually like the action on Netflix still. So I've taken another position on Netflix here, and this is the reason I've done this is because of the activity we're getting just below. Initially, when I had gotten short, I was looking for that break, and then it kind of went right through on me, right? So when it came back down, I was keeping an eye on how it's moving through here. It looks like there's active selling. So I'm going to step ahead. I've gone ahead and gotten a short at 533.40 with 536. If this risk is more in line with what kind of trade, what kind of activity you really want in terms of risk profiles. But I still like, I initially liked that trade with a 6-point risk. Now this is only going to cost me about $2.50 with slippage, but $2.50 on this short with this activity in the same area that I was initially thinking. Yeah, you know what? I was wrong the first time, but let's see if I'm wrong twice in the same area. If I'm wrong twice, we're going to walk away from Netflix and I can't really read it. But for now, I like this area. I liked it the first time. I was wrong. I was pushed out, and now I'm in it the second time. We'll see how this one plays out. And just a quick update, NTAP is now coming off. It is, I'm sure, just underneath 45. We're entering that sell area that I was looking forward to as acting as resistance. So we're going to let that one work itself. And SRNE, of course, is sideways. And ABT still flirting and bouncing off that 112. So that is helping that downside case right now. So we are waiting on this one here to break 109.75, and of course futures bids are still out there. Just in front of 85 exactly. I got to look at this.
I got to be honest with you. I'm gonna double down with you on that Abbott Labs. And I talked about the sort of retracement play that I was looking at for Abbott. you see this weakness, and this is exactly what, sorry, why is it, there we go, finally loading up there. You see this weakness holding that 112, and I was waiting for a test a little bit higher so I can put some, another sort of sell on the buy action there, or sell the pops, as like a trader I used to know back in the day would say. But I actually think maybe using the 112.50 to get in for a scalp trade, not a bad idea. I only have the one order like yourself through the bottom here, which technically is about a 109.80, whether it's a 110 you want to use. You're splitting hairs at that point, but Abbott Labs definitely heading southbound. And I want to jump over to everyone's looking at the sell-off that's happening, whether it's Workhorse, it doesn't, any of these names that you want to talk about. Xpeng, we don't know when it's going to open up. People are asking this on the chat. I do have a level 2 open, so when it does happen and it kicks in, I will know almost immediately. It's on my quote board. We'll get alerts. Might even hear yelling in the background as people are taking that trade. But either way, we will get to it when it happens. But sometimes it really isn't even until like 11 o'clock, close to 12, that you see that happen. And I mean, just an update on VBIV. I'm taking another leg out here at 5 even, and I am going to go ahead and take a breakthrough of 5 even for a long side trade. So an 8 to 10 cent winner on the long break, initially at that 86 to 90 area, but I am going to be adding to the position through 5. I'm going to be trying to dip by this one around 470 or so, more like a range entry that I'd like to see, as long as it holds where I was getting out of that previous short down at 55.60. I think I'll double dip on this one, take the break, and take the dip by action as well.
Okay, guys, just a quick update on the ES. I've actually pulled the order. I was waiting in front of 85. I was keeping an eye on the 90 level. The activity that I'm seeing in front of 90, I don't like it. That's not worth the risk for me. For 25 points, knowing that there's a ton of action here that I don't like, that's a no-go for me on that bid. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start looking now actively in front of 80. Now, I still like the long for now, but at the same time, I'm not willing to pay 85. It initially was, but given how we were working these 90s, no longer good for me. So we're going to be looking back down towards the 80s here, 80s, 75s, with the 60 is still going to be the stop there. So towards 80, going down to 75, that's where I'm looking for some bids. It looks like we're going to catch an offer here in front of 90, so just be aware, there is a lot of activity here. We initially came off of that 90, we broke through, and now we're backing off again. Yeah, that might become a problem later on. Just mind you, this is a long-term setup, right? So for me, throughout the day, I'm going to keep an eye on these levels here. 34.60 is still the level, and of course, Netflix. Oh, Netflix, what are you doing? I don't know what to do with you just yet. So I like the action. This is one of those situations where I'm not sure what to do. So the answer is stay put. So 536 is still the stop. We are short just in front of 533.50. So we're short here because of the activity I saw earlier, and now it's messing around. I think if it messes around one more time, I got to pull the trigger and get out on this one there. Of course, I'm going to try and get out flat. Otherwise, we got to let this stop go off. The reason I would do that is because there's no point in cutting the trade, because there's no new information that changes anything. It just makes me a little uncomfortable with the kind of action I'm getting, given what we've already done here. And of course, SRNE is starting to push through that 780 now. Of course, this is one of those trades I've been talking about this one for a few days now. Of course, that 850 initially on the 25th that I had taken, it had gone sideways, and we kind of ran it flat on this one, and then it kind of took off yesterday. Neil was trading this quite actively yesterday.
I love SRNE.
What's that?
I love Sorrento. It's just an active trader. I love it.
Yeah, and then this one is now taking 780. So of course 830 is going to be the stop on this, and we're waiting on this one there. What do you got, Brendan?
I mentioned that Pedvedco earlier, and Sandridge Permian Trust. So PER and PED over on the NYSE ARC exchange. This is that little tiny penny stock doing all kinds of volume today. 20 million shares already. 60%. It's come off from 80 down to 55 again. PED acquiring PER, guys.
All right, guys, futures coming into that 580. So I think it was a good decision not to pull the trigger on this 586. I saw what I saw up here. I didn't like it. So now 34.80 is now going to be the level I'm going to really keep an eye on. We need to support this level. Here's the problem. Here's the setup. This is the 5-minute chart. I've zoomed this out so you guys can see multiple days worth of action, more granular detail than the 60-minute chart provides. But that is the primary way of looking at the chart. At least the way I do it is I like to see long-term time frames with an active look on the big picture. At the same time, I like smaller details. So a 5-minute chart works for that. 34.90, that's going to be problematic. Why? we should not be hitting this multiple times if this market's that strong and hesitating this aggressively. What do you got, Brendan?
Speaking of that X-Peng in the EV space, guys, haven't looked at Tesla this morning. Shout out to Sean Catino watching us this morning. What's up, Sean? Tesla up 2.3%, coming up to 2,200. A little bit of a rejection here. We're fading back below that now. We're trying to get back below 2,200, but we did break 2,200 today, guys, on Tesla.
I was actually just looking at two things. One of them was the potential breakdown at 2,200 on Tesla if this market, at least the NASDAQ, wants to continue its sort of short-term flush here. But the other one was Oracle. And you talked about the story there, Microsoft possibly announcing a deal. Oracle, of course, getting a bump when, Mr. Ellison, who back in the day was like the master deal closer. They jumped in, deal was getting done. But I think Oracle here, through this sort of 57 area, and it's like 57 to 57.20, if I can quickly jump to a higher time frame. Look at this action yesterday in the afternoon. You had this wide range of not consolidation, but bouncing up and down through like 57, 57.20 to 30. If we can get back and hold that area as possible resistance, that's where I think I could get back into the short, especially if it looks like what we're seeing here, a sell-off in tech, double down with the Microsoft news beating them out for TikTok potentially. I could see Oracle getting back to that 56 area, and I'm going to want a piece of that pie if it happens, using that 57 to 57.30 area as my cover to the upside.
Yeah, I'm actively looking at this Netflix. It is creeping, but it's not moving. That's going to be a problem. And you know what? This might be a situation where I get out and this market moves after I get out. But I am actively now looking to protect this trade. I am in the trade. I've been short twice now, and it is really hesitating. That makes me really question this area. If we do not go, we are going. Now, it's $2.30 in the money, but you know Netflix, it's got a spread and it's super thin. So I got to be very careful on how I can get these shares out. But at the same time, I am actively looking. If we come back above 532 on this 5-minute bar, I think in the next minute, if we come back above, I got to pull the trigger and get it out, take what I can get on this and walk away because I cannot read this area properly. So for now, it's in the money. We'll see how this one plays out. Of course, 526, if this continues on, 526.50, 526 even, 526 even is going to be the first target on Netflix.
Yeah, I want to jump back over to as the market starts coming back in. Of course, Abercrombie & Finch got flushed out. That's going to be one of the negative stocks today. And if you look at this level at 12.20 that got held, we're starting to approach it. We're up 11% here. Obviously, good story here on the retail on this retail name. But I think if it breaks 12.20 and then you get a test of this 12 even and a flush through that price, it's going to be too good of a retracement, a gap fill not to play. So you are going to see me dip into that one. I think if you want to be taking it here, 1270 kind of remains an area of interest for me, but it could not crack that 13. Remember, that looks like the new price for a breakout maybe later on in the afternoon. It is 10:10, guys. Let's get to some upgrades and downgrades with Brendan at the big screen.
Hey guys, lots to look at so far this morning. Let's get you a few more symbols here. We'll talk upgrades and downgrades over on that side so far. Not a heck of a lot as far as tradable moves in these names, but Magnolia Petroleum, a decent one, up 5% this morning. Down here, Viacom CBS also a little bit muted. I'll show you that one in a second. We were all over this one yesterday. DKS after earnings, still in positive territory. A couple of price target decreases this morning on DKS, and Lulu, a little muted as well. But let's have a look at both. Well, this one first, Viacom, then Lulu after. Viacom CBS holding 28 here. We came all the way up to 20, almost 29, but right back to 28. Interesting level if you go to the daily chart as well. Kind of the top end of this range on the daily chart for Viacom CBS, so Via C. And if we shift over to the next one, did I set that up wrong? Yeah, I did. So Lulu was the downgrade. Lulu also kind of moving to the downside, grinding to the downside, guys. Not a huge move though so far. Let's go back over to you.
Okay, guys, quick update on futures here as we're coming through. Again, the active selling is going to be a problem, it looks like. So I'm actually being patient with this. I remember I had a long or bid in front of 34.85, and I pulled that bid because I didn't like what was happening above 90, and now they're actively selling into this 80 as well. So you know what? We're going to be hands off. We're going to wait. This area is hot. There's a ton of action here. So if we can actually build up enough buying to actually find a long, then great. If not, 34.60 on the break. That's going to be the trade I'm looking for. Remember, I mentioned earlier to you guys before the market opened that after the open, there's a potential for this to kind of fully reject the move up. If we're thinking one direction and we were moving in that direction, and then as soon as the open happened, we kind of flipped direction. that is going to be a problem. If this breaks 34.60, I'm expecting a much bigger down day than the potential up day that was coming in. Of course, Netflix finally taking that 530. You see my bid, 526, just in front of 526. That is going to be the first exit for me. I don't like what I saw late around 10:45, 10:50 yesterday. So that's the first target. That's $5 in the money. We're finally getting that read proper. You know, I would have liked to have done this move without this little flush through 540. But you know what? The read was there. The level was there. I finally got it right, let's just say, on Netflix, because it is a little thin. It is a little difficult to read at times. But hey, you know what? The area was there, and we worked it properly. So I've got that bid out. We're looking to cash some out as we approach $6.50 on Netflix.
A name I know you were watching here. So, I mean, we talked about Dollar Tree. This was on the watch list this morning, along with Dollar General on their earnings. But just broke the opening range bottom and is trying to flush through like this 98 area. The pre-market low here, 97.60. I had 97.80 as a key price there when I went back and looked at the daily chart in a higher time frame. So right in the middle of what looks like the pre-market bottom and this low. If it breaks through that area, that 40-cent range, I'm going to jump into the short side trade. I definitely said I would prefer to be shorting Dollar Tree as opposed to Dollar General. Either one off the open right now would have been good, but you had to sustain this move on what was low volume in Dollar Tree, and actually the liquidity was a little bit thin despite the good volume when it got up to that 102. If I take that 97.60 area break, you almost have to give it back to like 99 at least, maybe even close to like 100. So you're risking a couple of $1.50 or so. 95 is the nearest support I could find. So you do have some upside there if you take that trade, maybe like a $2.50 to $3 range if you can get Dollar Tree. Has to break first, hasn't happened yet. Because as market continues to slide, I really do think Dollar Tree is going to give us that break.
Okay, so just a quick update on Netflix here. Remember, I'm sitting in front of 526. The problem is it's an area. It's not a specific level, right? So when I see this bounce off of this area and without filling me, now I'm going to think, you know what, maybe I got the exact price point that I have the offer or the bid out wrong. So I'm going to start tightening up the exit on the first half here, 529. If it breaks that without giving me the fill, we're just going to cash out. There we go. We're getting out of 529. On Netflix there on the first half. What do you got, Brendan?
Another one with the earnings, guys. Aftermarket yesterday, Box in New York, still at 4%, but it's given back a lot here. You can see the big move up after an earnings beat for this name yesterday, BOX. But we're on the way back down, trying to hold $20 right now for BOX, guys.
Yeah, I just want to quickly jump back over to Abbott Labs. I don't want to get too far away from this one. It's trying to hold both the pre-market and the open range bottom here, that 110 area. It's getting a bit of a ramp. I did want to play two things here. I want to have a look at this 112.15 on a retrace, 112 to 112.15 area, I should say. And then if it busts through, I would probably have another look shy of where our last entry was. And that was sort of an average price of 113.50 or so. So if we get either one of those tests, you'll probably see me take a shot at the short trade, likely in and around that 112 first. I still like the break at the bottom. I'm going to play the overall retracement trend. It's sort of a gap fill to the downside on Abbott Labs. Yes, it was up 10%. Yes, it's a positive news story. Nothing against it there. But I just like that pullback trade, especially when it gives me a 1-for-1. Let's see if we can't get another one here. First off this 112 area, I want to sell into that range. Valeria has something for us. Let's jump to her.
Hey guys, we receive a lot of questions about our trading platform. So today, Day Trade the World representatives will join us to discuss why we love it so much. So open the link I'm sending on the chat in a new tab and tune in at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, please share the link of this video with your friends and destroy the like button. I'll see you later and back to traders.
All right, guys, trailing stop. We've already got half of that exit. I wish I had gotten that fill, but you know what? The market shows in front of 526.50 instead of 526 even. So because of that 50 cent, I had to actually give up some on the way back. First half of it is out. Trailing stop is still going to be 536. Well, it's not trailing anymore. It's actually the same stop. I haven't moved the stop on this from the original stop at 536. It only cost me 250. Or so in terms of risk. I've already made that in the first half of this trade. So in the event, now it becomes one of those trades where you're going to let it, I'm going to let it ride because the reason being, this is an area that was hot. I like the area. 536 needs to be a stop. 530 to 526 was supposed to be the target. And if we're going to just mess around in between, I'm just going to wait. What do you got, Brendan?
This big C, guys, finally looking a little bit top heavy up here around 150. So we try to get back above. Big pull in from 162 to 150. Looks like it's going to reject this 150 area now as well. So just a heads up on big C, guys.
Yeah, a couple of things to get to. One of them is going to be VBIV. So missed a dip opportunity. Didn't quite get to that 460, 455 area. It might bust through 5 even where I would get back in on the breakout. I sort of mentioned that to you as well. But I want to jump to PED here. PED, it is sort of, it did give the rollover. Like I said, I don't have the short availability, but I do like the opportunity. If you can get another turn here, certainly shorting at like 180 to 185 isn't a horrible idea. Dollar Tree just broke the low, so you can see that one indicate in for me at 97.55. I think I'm willing to play that range all the way up to about like 98 and risk to like 99, 100 area if I can retrace back to the downside. But going back to PED here, I want to see if I can get those locates and then maybe jump in right at this 180 into that 160. If it breaks this through the pre-market breakout high, I do feel like you have a really good shot that we're going to see that 120 low at some point in the day. It rejected at 220, got below that 2 that I wanted to see. First, have to see if I can get the locates. Breaking back above 2 even, I would stay away from. I'd only look for a breakout trade at high of day at 225 or 227, technically speaking.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned DLTR because I was able to flip to it before my alert went off. I am actively joining. Are you short there, Neil, on DLTR? Because I'm joining the short side.
Right here at the bottom here at 97.50. 55 is going to be my price. I wanted that bottom end break here in Dollar Tree, so I am picking it up. It's one of those things where you can leave yourself enough room. If you like to get a better price, I would at least think about it 98.50, 98, like 70 or 80, something in that range to add to it. But I never want to miss the breakout trade, especially in a stock that has a little bit lower liquidity. If it does go immediately, I don't want to have missed the move altogether. And that's the idea why sometimes I'm willing to pay up a bit, or pay down in this case, to get that early entry, Arun.
Okay, so I've also joined you there on the short. I've got 97.64 as my stop. I'm using 100 even as a round number for my stop on DLTR. Of course, futures are bouncing, so that's back in play now. There's potential for a long around that 80 level. Remember, we are actively trying to avoid this 90 area because it is going to be a problem. So even though 34.60 is going to be the stop, I've got to try to manage this risk as much as possible. 34.80 is the price I'm looking for. I'm not there just yet in terms of being convinced on this long, but I am. When I am, I'm going to go 34.80 just in front with 34.60 on the stop. DLTR on the short side, we have that with 100 even on the stop there. Netflix, we are short. We've already cashed out some. Of course, 536 is still the trailing stop, the original stop. So we're going to leave that alone. If this ends up washing out the trade, fine. That means this level is good. You know what? There's a lot more activity than that was anticipated in this area. So we're going to leave that alone. Let it figure itself out. NTAP, guys. NTAP, I had initially taken just underneath 45. It went all the way down to 44.20 before bouncing. I'm okay with this. This is going to be one of those trades that takes some time. I'm okay with this. I like the setup. So 46 even is still the stop. We are not cashing out on that. And of course, SRNE is going, just flirting with that 780. So we're going to wait on that as well. What do you got, Brendan?
Another bit of a sympathy idea, guys, as far as that Abbott Labs news is concerned. Our good friend Codex, Co-Diagnostics here, CODX, down on that news this morning. They, of course, have multiple COVID-19 tests, but just a big pop here through 1150 once again on decent volume. Down 12%, though, for CODX, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we did a video yesterday, and like, watch out, trading terminology, but watch out for the shakeout on VBIV. It looks like it's going to make that attempt. You get the 5 even break here. It's going to try, it looks like it wants to try Tesla. I shouldn't try to predict the future. It might happen, it might not. Test lower than that 490 range. You almost have to give it at least a cursory test of like 485, something along those lines. It's just worth going to the higher time frame and seeing. You do think the opportunity to just extend this move into like 550 to 565, which is the next area of sort of resistance to the upside that I can see. It's certainly going to be worth it. You got to risk 10, 15 pennies at least on that type of a play. Now, the reason why I also, before it's coming the upside now, it's going to be a winner, but reason I wanted to get it early, I want to double down on this reasoning on Dollar Tree. And again, it's not that I don't think you could get a consolidation near that bottom and a better entry price. I just feel like if it goes right away, it could be $1, and then you're thinking about chasing it at that point. So I'd much rather have a smaller position than I wanted, but a piece of the pie and not living with that FOMO action. That's why it might consolidate here and give me a better price. We'll see what happens, but I like this break. I think it's got the downside action there for Dollar Tree. There's lots of ways to skin a cat. I mean, Arun might wait for a better price, and then if he gets it, it's going to be way better of a trade than what I have on, less less risk in terms of the actual dollar amount before his stop, maybe even a bigger position size. Who knows? I just like to have a bit of a dip into that action early, just in case I do miss out on that trade and that flush to the downside right away. I do want to jump over to one other name here. We're talking about sympathy plays. We're talking about some names in the space. Codex is down 12%, but it's hard for me to ignore this massive bounce that it just put in here, testing some of these pre-market levels. Now, I would look at this little ramp area at about 1190, 12 even, and say to myself, if it can't break this back to the upside, not a bad point to be selling in front of. Breakout long, possibly at 12 if you catch it on a Codex. So it's on my radar now. It wasn't before, but I am watching this. If it does try to roll over, I would use that 90 to 12 as an area of resistance and see if I can't sell in front of it. Already 1020, guys. Let's talk about some small caps with a small cap recap. Brendan at the big screen.
Hey guys, yeah, small cap time. Lots of action to talk about so far in small cap. This was the big mover yesterday that we were all over yesterday. Flowdime, FLDM to the upside. Huge flush on this thing this morning to the downside. So I noticed right at the open that this thing was trading lower. Not a lot of volume in the pre-market, you can see, but trading lower below some significant levels from yesterday. So really like when that happens, kind of the first red day after that huge move to the upside. I took $1 out of this trade and thought I did pretty well. Man, what a move. Down to 750. This is 950, even 10 if you got it in the pre-market. So FLDM, a huge mover if you like the short side. This morning, another one, Clovis, we talked about right at the open. I said, watch this 575 up here. Never came into play, so no worries. Kind of grinding to the downside. Not a terribly exciting trade, but still in the money, working to the downside. I'll give you my take on this one. Yeah, I took that same short in the pre-market there, stopped out above that high. Watch 520. Go out to the daily chart, 520 to 525. Bit of a pivot for VBIV. So still back involved in this one in front of 520 to 525. Lots to look at today, guys. Back over to you.
All right, guys, futures, just an update. I've started moving some bids into the futures here. I've got some in front of 80, just underneath 85, so we're on the 83 area. I've also got some in front of the 80 area. I'm actually starting to actively now try to get this. So I like the long, I like the way it's setting up, but I don't like the prices that it's at right now. So no chasing this trade, but if it comes back in again one more time, we definitely will be stepping into this as well. You can see now Netflix here bouncing back into that area. This is going to be the key test here. This area needs to hold. If this area does not hold, there's going to be a problem. I mean, I'll be out of the trade, and that's perfectly fine, but this area needs to hold. That could be a problem as we move back in towards 540. So this is the area I'm looking at, 534 to 536. This should provide enough action to actually push us down through 520. That's the expectation, right? 526. I want to say if we can get down through 526 and actually break it, then I think we really have a chance to keep going down. Otherwise, it's going to be a cut and run on this trade there. 526 is going to be the exit there. And NTAP, back towards that 45 even. 46 is still the stop. It was at one point, it was 80 cents in the money. But again, the first target for me was 43.20, 43.10. That area was the first target for me. It's not about being greedy as much as it is that was the first target, and there's no way to manage it otherwise. So I left it. I was looking at it, but I had no reason to get out of the trade. It has come back. It's still 20 cents in the money or so at the moment. But we're going to wait on this one. This is going to take some time. It looks like it is slowing down in terms of volume and movement.
You mentioned being greedy there for a second, and I want to jump over to, I was greedy on Li Auto. Certainly could have had like that dollar winner. I did take another shot at it and lost. I am watching it make a double bottom here. It flushed through 21 even initially before supporting at 2085. If you went into yesterday's sort of price action, this is where the breakout was in the afternoon. Right, it was exactly at that 2085 area. We talked about this, or sort of almost led the show off talking about this on Li Auto when I did mention it. So, I'm going to take a shot here in front of that bottom. It looks like a previous resistance turning into support, at least in the shorter time frame here. So if we can make a ramp up, this time I will take profit. I will jump in and take 40 cents and 50 cents and scalp off this bottom, looking to see if it can retest up to 22. Hopefully I can get some of these shares for a dollar winner, but otherwise I'm not going to make the same mistake I made earlier, getting too greedy. It was a nice win I had on the initial trade. I certainly could have done much better with my execution on the second half of it. I will not make that mistake again. And so similar price action here. I talked about the possible shakeout in VBIV. I hope you guys aren't shaken out of this trade. It does hold for now that 45 area, which was the previous price I was looking at. I did jump back into some more shares below there. Average price now 5 even. If we can break into that 520 that Brendan talked about, I'll start taking profit on the way up. Brendan, what do you got?
Big mover from yesterday, back to the upside again today. Anaplan here, PLAN. Remember, we were talking about this one all morning yesterday, just coming back in on a volume spike there through 60.50, guys, up 5% again today for Anaplan.
All right, I was just going through the chat, and you know what? Shout out to Marlon for pointing this one out. 62.50 on PLAN. That's the level I had from yesterday. I've now put that on my radar here. It wasn't actually on my list, so shout out to you for mentioning it. 62.50 is the level I'm marking off here. This thing has been running all morning. So if we can get through 62.50, I think 61.50 could be a good stop. Of course, that is dependent entirely on how this runs towards that level. For now, it's a no-go for me. Of course, the bottom, 56.50, if that breaks, you can open up a short. I give it a little bit of flexibility in front of underneath 56.50, though, just because of the activity we saw in the pre-market as well. So maybe slightly wait on this one below 56.50 before jumping in. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to mark off 56.50 as an area to watch and 62.50 as the top end area to watch. Of course, futures now running. I'm still waiting on the bids here. I'm not paying up in these 90s. No way. That's not happening. I don't care if it goes, but that is way too expensive. 30 points for a trade that's going to run into 3,500? Nah. Not with this kind of activity over the top. So we're going to wait on that one there. And of course, DLTR going sideways. I mean, we are short just underneath 97.50. I know Neil's in there with me there. We are at different prices, but same read here. We're looking for the break through this area. 100 even is going to be the stop. That's about $2.50 in terms of risk, but you've seen what this stock can do. $2.50 I think is worth it. And of course, Netflix hesitating off that 534, going up to 536. Again, we're banking on this to continue on. If this level breaks, we're going to cut. We're going to walk away. This trade is going to be a wash. For we made about $4 on the first half. We're going to lose about $2.50 on the second half. And that's perfectly fine. We'll make a little bit, but we're going to walk away from Netflix if this breaks 536. Of course, NTAP bounced off that 44.20 towards that 45. Now we're still waiting there. I'm short just underneath 45 with 46 even as the stop. So we'll wait on that one there. And of course, SRNE has decided to go to sleep after breaking 780. This was meant to, there was a lot more expectation through SRNE.
Don't sleep too much on that stock.
What's that?
Don't sleep too much on Sorrento when it does that consolidation. You got those levels. I find that if you sort of go back to it sometimes at 11 o'clock, a little bit later on, you can catch those wins. So, I still have that on my radar as well. I do want to update just a couple of things here. One, not 520, but it looks like 510 to 515, a bit of selling in this VBIV. I took a couple of legs off. I'm still holding like 3/4 of my position on that break. I have 5 even here. I did take some off in the same price area, but it is sort of running into trouble here, just shy of what I thought would be first resistance at 520. The other one I have is Li Auto to the long side. I won't go with the Dollar Tree because we're both in that basically the same trade, it looks like. But I am going to take some of this Li Auto off. If it makes another push up towards VWAP here at 2130 to 2150. It is trying to make that bottom. I did show you. This was the breakout price from yesterday's action, and it was such a parabolic move. It was unbelievable. If it can hold here, I really think we have a shot to test back into 22 even. So a couple of nice longs on both Li Auto and VBIV. Not so much on Dollar Tree, but it's still got halfway to go before it gets to that 100 price range before I'm too concerned about it. Brendan at the Big Jessica, what do you got for us?
Still looking at this REKR Recor, looking for a catalyst anyways, 25% higher on the day. This one was halted in the pre-market, just resumed way up here at 7, coming back to the downside for REKR. Guys.
All right, guys, just an update on DLTR. I'm actually going to cut on this trade. I'm not going to give it a 250. I don't need to. I've seen enough. They are actively rejecting that 97.50. I don't need to be a part of this. So I'm going to walk away from DLTR. It is going to be an early run on this trade just because I've gotten enough information to make me think that this trade is not going to go right now. So we'll just walk away with a $1 hit here. And it's less than $1. I got it at 74. We're going to walk away as that order gets filled there. So DLTR, we're going to walk away from that. Netflix is coming back in. 536 is still that area that I was looking at. And of course, futures just completely running. There's a no-go there on the futures there.
I gotta ask you a quick question about the futures here because actually I think I do have a chart up and sort of look at this. And look at the Nasdaq, and I know you watch both the Nasdaq and the ES, but I mean you're seeing this sort of wide range being traveled back and forth, and it's more prominent on the ES, which is approaching its top. Look, do you consider, is there more significance each time it gets to this level if you're looking for a break through the top, or do you sort of stick to whatever you're looking at before and you sort of throw out this whipsaw action and ignore it and look for the price levels that you had that you were concerned with in the morning, Arun?
I mean, yeah, like when the levels get bumped into multiple times, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. The problem is they keep putting in new highs every time we kind of come off. That tells me that the selling is moving up towards that 3,500. So even if we break the high, I'm not going to go into it just because the selling is moving up as well. So the buyers are still in the same location, but the selling is moving up. That means if we're actively trying to push and the sellers are willing to step back a little bit and then come back in. So that's what's happening over here. And that's why for me, when it gets through 3490 into that area towards 3,500, I don't want to step in for those breaks. I mean, I'm definitely not going to step in at this price given what my risk is. Mind you, I'm all the way down here at 3460. So there's no way I'm going to put up 30 points in risk for a trade that's running into a round number like 3,500. So that's not going to happen at all. I'm going to wait for it to come back. If it doesn't come back, it doesn't come back. That's fine. But I need my prices. I need to control my risk-reward ratios on this trade. So in this situation, you just wait it out. That's all I can do. And of course, DLTR, guys, I've been trying to get out of DLTR, and this market it's just running on me. So like, what am I going to do? Here's the problem with DLTR. I'm trying to get out around 98.50, but this just completely ran and kind of ran away from my order. Here's the problem with that. I can either now decide to chase this exit right into the area that I was using to protect the short initially, or I can leave the order. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to pay into this trade because this could pay into this location because it could turn. So I'm going to wait either 100 or fill me on the exit and I'll take a $1 hit. What do you got, Brendan?
Another one from the travel group, guys, having quite the day. Marriott here up 5.7%. Just took out this high 102 straight through to 103 on the break of the day high there on decent volume as well for MAR, guys.
Yeah, we're going to go out of Brendan into another winner here, but I got to tell you, I'm going to take a little bit more profit on VBIV for you guys. It's just this consolidation shy of that 520. We talked about this as the next ramp to the upside. I think if we can get through this chop, good shot to get to the 550 to 560 range, but I want to make sure I take some profit. There might be another dip buy opportunity at that 485 range. I do feel like, and I made this mistake before, and I made this mistake in the past, of sort of getting out at like a 485 on a pullback, thinking that that's going to assure me a better entry point further on a dip. I'm not going to go ahead and do that here. I will probably, if I get out, not get back in on the VWAP break or this 470 area. It's got to sustain this break through this 520. Otherwise, I might just only play breakouts for the rest of the day on VBIV. I do have to get back to Li Auto because that is not giving me the ramp that I was hoping for off that 21 so far. I only took off about a quarter of the position here when it got like 25 cents in the money. I will jump back in front of 21 until it breaks, not 21 even, but this 2085 area from yesterday. Until it breaks that, I am going to be long here trying to bottom pick. The market is screaming to the upside. The stock went parabolic. Let's see if we can't fill the gap back into the upside. I would caution here. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is will we see a sell-off? When XPeng opens up, if it starts going parabolic, will there be a secondary push to the downside in some of these names? That does concern me a little bit in Li Auto, so I might trim my position if I see that open up and start to ramp to the upside. Still nothing when that IPO will be coming in today. Could be after 11 o'clock. Who knows? Brendan, what do you got?
Decent spot here for Williams-Sonoma. Another one with earnings, guys. WSM, they reported aftermarket yesterday. Coming back to the upside, though, 93.5 to 94 here. Definite area from the pre-market and yesterday afternoon. So a little bit of relative strength for Williams-Sonoma, guys.
All right, guys. Futures, we are still waiting on the futures to kind of come back a little bit. So we get that fill. I'm not chasing it. Like I've been saying it the entire time. I'm not chasing this trade. But you know what is working out finally here? NTAP kind of taking a ride all the way down to 44.20. Now coming back to 45. And look at that. We're going towards 44.20 again. Target's still down here between 43.20 and 43 even, around the 43.10 even level. That is where the first target is. Of course, we're going to actively manage this again because I do not need to see this bounce one more time on me because I've seen enough. Ignore that one trade. That was just an off print. So we are still around 44.27 as we are moving towards the lows on NTAP. So, hey, you know what? That actually, it took some time, but it finally got going. But you know what is still not going? Neil said don't sleep on the stock. Me, on the other hand, I'm starting to. SRNE here, 780. I'll be patient. I still have the trade. It's one of those stocks, I guess, is going to take some time. The action is done. The heavy action is gone. So now it's kind of sleepy trading. But you know what? I still like the trade, so I'll just wait it out. I'll be patient. I'm not going to cut the trade because I'm getting bored. There's no way. Don't ever do that. Just let the trade work itself out, no matter whether you care for the trade or not.
Stick to the plan.
Yeah, stick to the plan. Like Neil says, stick to the plan. What do you got, Brendan?
AMRN, big mover yesterday to the upside, continuing today. Just trying to double check that high from yesterday. Yeah, it was 730, so we just took that out. Tried here, but failed, but looks like we're going to stay above it this time. AMRN, 4% on the day, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Abercrombie and Finch here. I did talk about that 1270 level that we liked initially. I moved that to like 13 to the upside where you had this failure before. A little double top action. Going to throw away this pre-market top at 1320, like I said, on low volume, not significant to me, or as significant, I should say, to me. I'm going to look for a 13 break, but first things first, I am going to jump in front of it for a short trade. Reversal long. I did dip back into some dollar trade. I'm giving it to that 100 mark. And again, you know, if it breaks through, it's going to be about a couple of dollars worth of risk that I'm willing to put on Dollar Tree. I'm going to be aggressive through that break. I don't want to miss liquidity, so I'm crossed up a little bit to make sure I do get out. No market order, just a very aggressive limit order. But first things first, I am now looking at Abercrombie and Finch again. 13 even is going to be that top end that I want. I just wanted to get back to, I did mention that PED, and someone had asked in the chat, where was I looking to short it? I mean, I was trying to short it at 2, below 2. I was trying to short it at 180. We don't have locates here on this particular name. So unfortunately, it's not a trade that I can take. That's why I don't actually already have it on. Short here at like 180. If it broke, again, this 160 range was the pre-market top. I was saying that's not a bad entry point as well for a potential breakdown back to like 120 or so. I just can't necessarily put in that trade until we can get some locates on PED. But the structure is certainly there for an entry, a couple of entries that I would have liked.
Yeah, you know, plan absolutely on fire right now, getting closer and closer to that 62.50. So that's the area I'm looking. I'm looking for them to take out all this action that we got late session yesterday. Also in the morning, we were really hesitating in the morning around this area. So you know what? 62.50, if we can get this trade, I'm going to put 61.50 as a stop. As long as it continues its direction or the way it's moving without actually coming down a little bit, 61.50 is going to be the stop if we get 62.50 on the break. That is a trade I'm keying off on now. Of course, Netflix, it looks like, you know what, they're starting to build an area here. I'm going to try to walk away from this trade without that 536. I don't think I need to give it any more space. I'm starting to see more than enough buying to kind of just settle in and get out of this short and kind of walk away with the profit on the first half of this trade. So we'll walk away with that one. And NTAP sliding towards the lows. We're waiting on this one to kind of go towards 43.20. This is $1 away from the first target. But at the same time, that's far enough that I can actually actively manage it. And for everybody who's missing Hydration Nation, guys, I got my water bottle with me. Drink some water. Make sure you're staying well hydrated, as Sean would say. So while I do this, we're going to go to Brendan.
Hey guys, yeah, it's sector time. Let's have a look at what is moving the overall market so far today. We're up about 0.5% on the S&P. You can see really the only negativity coming from these two groups right here. I mentioned if you joined us at 10 o'clock, the NASDAQ kind of lagging the rest of the market to the upside. So tech stocks definitely weak, led by this group here, the semiconductors in negative territory. The entire group, in fact, all negative today. There's MU Micron to the downside, 1%. AMAT, LRCX, and KLAC, 2.5 to kind of 3.5% to the downside. Healthcare stocks also in negative territory. BDX, HOLX, and DGX all in negative territory because of Abbott Laboratories. So ABT coming out with that test, getting FDA approval with that quick test. So 7% for ABT. Everything else in that same group kind of offsetting that gain, though, to the downside. So this is really the only negativity. Energy stocks kind of in the red, but not a big move. Financials are leading. Saw strength right out of the gate this morning from some of the banks. Individual banks down here, every single one of them in positive territory, leading this group to the upside. Insurers also very strong on the day. RE, HIG, and TRV among the leaders there, up to 4% in positive territory. The diversified financials here, just one lonely one there in the red. Everything else nicely higher on the day. All the travel stocks in positive territory today. NCLH, CCL, RCL there, all the cruise lines. There's that Marriott we were talking about, MGM as well, LVS and Hilton also to the upside. UA, we mentioned Under Armour in the pre-market there a little bit, 2%. Nice reversal on that one. UAA or UA, you can trade either one. There's DLTR as well, the only one to the downside after the earnings. Guys, back over to you.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, Brendan. I want to go quickly to Abbott Labs because it is still holding and hugging that bottom, and I am going to look for that entry point still on a 110 break. That's going to be that low of the day. I also like any kind of a chance to maybe work its way back up to 112 and give me another short entry. I'm not looking for the long here over in Abbott Labs, not just yet. I think at some point I might consider it. Thank you, STFU there. We are still waiting for XPeng, of course, and I did mention this a couple of times. If you are trading any of these EV names or anything in the sector, just watch to see what the sentiment might be when XPEV does open up. If it gets any kind of a ramp, of course, repriced higher, could open up over 20 for all we know. That could put some negative pressure on some of these names. And I'm in Li Auto right now, which is having trouble bouncing off what was a significant level, that 2085, 21 bottom. It's making a nice little consolidation lower. I've only taken a small amount out for the time being. If it makes another push to the upside through like 2140, we're going to be all over this one, hopefully into that 22 range. But I do have to watch out to see what happens the next Penguin opens up, guys. I don't want to be fighting that train too hardly.
All right, guys, Netflix. I mentioned to you guys I don't like what I'm seeing on Netflix, so I've walked away from the second half of the position as well. You saw that short, and just underneath 533.50. Now we took some out in front of 529.50, and then cashed out the rest for flat. So we made half on about $4 and change on half the position, and the rest of it was scratched out. Of course, we lost some early on. So that is just covering a little bit of the losses that we have from early on. So we're going to walk away from Netflix at this point. I think it's way too difficult to read. Given what it's doing, I can't read it anymore. So I'm going to walk away from this. But what I can read is NTAP flirting with that low. It just won't go, but it is taking its time to get through. But hey, you know what? This is one of those stocks. It's going to be a long-term situation, at least for the rest of the day. They might retrace that whole move back. So that's what I'm looking at. I like to set up for that move. So 43.20 through 43 even is going to be the target there. And of course, DLTR, guys. I'm moving out of the way on DLTR. You saw what happened, right? I wanted to get it around 98.50, but the market ran on me. That put me in a situation there. I just got out. That put me in a situation where I'm going to be punching out into the area that was going to be declared to help the initial short. So there's no way I'm going to punch out of my position just because it's gotten way too far, and I'm still using that area to kind of look at the short. So that's not going to happen. So what I'm going to do, or what I did, was let it come back. Use that area that was supposed to be an initial location for stops. Use that area to kind of let it come back and pull the trigger on the exit. So we walk away from this trade. I don't know what's happening below 97.50, but I don't like it, so I don't need to be a part of it. I don't need to put up $2.50 in risk for a trade like that. That's a kind of situation where you're always analyzing when new information comes on. Having a plan and trading it is one thing, but also including new information has to be a part of that plan. You have to be actively engaging in what's coming on the board as you trade. You know there's something happening in that 97.50, that's why you take a trade. And then when something else happens, you have to gauge how much risk you still want to apply to that trade. That's not bailing on your plan, that's just modifying the plan as it goes, but not being pushed out of the trade. You have to be patient with it at the same time. Use the new information as it's coming on the board. And of course, NTAP now creeping towards that 44 even level. The market as well. Let me just do a quick update on the futures here.
Going to the upside here. I just want to get over to fresh highs in Microsoft, guys. Just watch out. 230 did get taken out. I went the other way in this trade because you have that positive news, potentially that TikTok deal coming in. Oracle did enter my target range for a short. I did jump into it. It is testing this 57.35 sort of last ramp up on volume. It did roll over at this price. If it rolls over again at that price, I would think about adding to my position here. But Microsoft up, Oracle going with it for now. Could actually turn positive on the session if it gets 20 pennies higher. If it fails to do so, that's when I'd like to dig into Oracle shorts. Brendan, what do you got?
Nice look here for AMC. The theater operator up 13% today, almost 14. They announced 170 more additional theaters going to open throughout the U.S. But that's it. After that, it's going to be up to local officials to determine when they are able to reopen the remainder of their theaters throughout the U.S. So nice move today for AMC, guys.
All right, guys, futures, let's just provide an update with the futures. Let me just do it real quick. They are backing off once again after putting in a new high. This is going to be a problem. The way this chart is building, it is going to be very hard to be confident in that upside break because that selling is moving closer and closer to that 3,500, which makes me think now the stops are building above 3,500, which means if the stops go off above 3,500, is the selling then going to step back in? That's the kind of analysis. It's like you're going down multiple tree branches at this point to figure out what's going on, and it's just a mess and a half on what's going to happen around that 3,500. So that makes me more and more uncomfortable as we get closer and closer. So what does make me more confident in making a read here is around this 34.80. You saw I had some initial orders here, but every time we go up high and we put in some more selling, I pull the order. The reason I pull the order is because there's active selling in this. Well, it's not active, it's passive selling, but at the same time, it's enough to get some active selling afterwards. So for me, I want to catch it as the market's picking up some bids on the move back up. Of course, I've already missed it on the first two times because I didn't see enough to go long around that area. Even though that area, 34.80 through 34.75, is the area I'm looking at, I want to be able to catch the buying as it's happening, not as the selling is coming into that area. Because for all you know, once the buying is exhausted and the selling comes in, the selling could just go right through the bottom there. And that's the concern here, especially in a situation where we start putting in new highs as we kind of back off every time and there's a big round number in play above it. So more of a problem up here for me now. So every time it comes down, I am looking for a long, but at the same time, I'm not rushing to get in on the drop there. So we're going to wait for that one. And hey, you know what? NTAP going through that 44. We are still waiting. 43.20 is still the first target. So we're going to wait on that one there. And you know what? SRNE is putting me to sleep.
We did break the bottom on Abbott Labs, guys. I just want to let you know 110 did go. So forget about the sell on the dip or sell on the buy action or sell on that pop. You are going to get a bottom break here. I'm short now 109.98. So 110 break on Abbott Labs. Brennan, what do you got?
And perfect tie-in there for this one. HOLX, medical diagnostics company as well. So HOLX to the downside. There's another one in that group, 7.5%. Just trying to break back, though, through the 61 area. A little bit of congestion in the pre-market, but big move down today for HOLX, guys.
I am glad.
I do want to at least try to cover AMC and the move that's happening right now. You are seeing extended pushes and volume spikes continuously, and it is starting to round into some of these, right now just breaking that like 644 in the daily, trying to get up to that 7. I think the next level upside is going to be obvious. If it gets any kind of secondary parabolic move up, anywhere close to 750, that's a fade, and it's a fade all day if you look at the daily chart here. So let's just watch out for that. I don't think it's incredibly likely, but at some point you get into that like squeeze territory. It's up that 17%. I've said this before, and like you see something up 10, 15, 20%, think, yeah, whatever, it's not going to go another 15 or 20. And then next thing you know what happens, I just want to be prepared in the event that I do see a big time push that turns around in that 750 range. I'm going to be all over shorting it in AMC if I get that chance. Brennan, what do you got?
A big bounce here for Oracle. Just actually went positive on the day there very briefly on a volume spike as we took out that day high through 57.75. Obviously, some ties to TikTok here as well. So watch ORCL moving back up, guys.
Yeah, that'll be a fail for me because I was looking to see if it could hold that negative the negative to positive area. I go short in the 30s and get stopped out in the 50s on the way up. What I thought was going to be support was no good, guys. You're going to see that break, and I'm not going to touch this one to the long side. I mean, ultimately, if Microsoft wins this bid, I do feel like, announces that they've won this bid, I do feel like on that news, you could get some sell action Oracle that I just don't want to be stepping in front of the train up to the long side. I did neglect to mention over in Abercrombie and Finch, that one was a break through that high of day. I'm still sort of hanging on to this one. It's just consolidating higher. There's really not much happening here. I took a short in front of 13. I reversed to the long side. You see me long there at 13.06. Just sideways action. There was a scalp available to you if you took it. I'm looking for it to take out the pre-market high next, where I'd probably jump into some more shares, or as you can see here, looking for a bit of a dip buy if I can catch something at like 1288, 1290 area. Just neither of those things happening, so sleepy sideways action, like Arun likes to say, on Abercrombie and Finch here at that top end break.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to sleep on SRNE. I'm going to be patient because Neil said don't ever sleep on that stock, so I'm not going to go to sleep, but it is putting me to sleep, so I'm fighting it. And futures, that's keeping me awake here. Futures, there's so much happening there. So we just got to be waiting on this one here, see what's going on there. And we are going to go to the big board with Brennan.
Hey guys, yeah, let's have a look at currency markets. We had a little bit of a negative move on the U.S. dollar going into that speech from Fed Chair Powell this morning, but bounce since then. I went into a 10-minute chart here. Usually look at higher time frames, but worth looking at a 10-minute chart here. So this is 93. We've been talking about that kind of 93 area for the DXY, the U.S. dollar index. You can see the little bounce this morning after that speech from Fed Chair Powell, putting a lot of these under pressure. So higher dollar obviously means lower euro today, down 0.4%, 117 and change there for the euro. Canadian dollar basically break even. This was trying to go a little bit further to the downside, but a lot of strength here. 76 even for the CAD this morning. British pound as well, about 0.25%, 131 and change. Both Australia and New Zealand also in negative territory. Their currencies, that is Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, to the downside. But all about this one today, the U.S. dollar index after that speech. You can see we did have pretty sharp move going down into the speech, but as I said, the bounce off of 93 once again for DXY. Guys, back over to Arun.
All right, I'm trying to join Neil with this short. 109.75 is the level that I'm looking to take a short on. It's going to be the stop on that. It's going to be just above 111.50. It's going to be about $1.75 in risk. But you know what? I'm waiting for this. Neil's already in this, I think, just underneath 110. I'm waiting a little bit lower. The reason I'm waiting a little bit lower is it's this gap that concerns me. Gaps are always unknown because we haven't traded in that area since we moved through it. So for me, this makes me a little hesitant to kind of just jump in front of it, knowing that we haven't cleared any sort of activity. 109.75 seems to be the last point of activity inside that gap. So if we can get below there, I'm going to definitely get in on the break there and join him with 111.50 as a stop. Just an update with NTAP. We've cashed out some in front of 44. That break should have gone through 44 because there's nothing holding us down. Is there holding us up, actually? And you know what? It went right through and then came right back above. So you know what? Given that we've already bounced once above 44.20 and bounced again in front of 44, so I've cashed some out. Half of it is in. So I've already locked in profit. It's a 1-to-1 risk reward. Remember, we shorted 45 with 46 on the stop and we got out in front of 44. So 1-to-1 is locked in. Now it's just managing it all the way down. As I'm going to look at 44.60 as a trailing stop. That gives me action in front of this bounce and also this bounce here. I think if we come all the way back up, it's worth getting out there. So NTAP now in the money, 90 cents or so in the money, 79, 80 cents in the money right now as it bounces. And of course, we are still looking at ABT. Neil, are you still short on ABT? You are short, right, on ABT?
Yeah, it's short. It's basically flat right now. The more concerning trade for me is going to be this dollar tree. And we've talked about it a little bit here, but it did give some consolidation, which was what I was looking for. I talked about waiting. You take some on the break to the downside, and then about just sort of waiting here to see if we can get some kind of a rollover. It does try to consolidate and roll. I do then finally get the second leg in the position that I wanted, but it bounces off of 98 here, which is a sign of strength. So puts in that higher low. Now it's looking to take out this 99.50 range. And every single sign is pointing to me like, you give this to 100 and you're throwing away an extra 50 pennies. So I'm going to move my stop to this 99.50 here, get out. And it really does even feel like if I was flat, I'd be considering longing this thing if it was called Dollar General. So I got to look to this and say, let's just cut it off here at 99.50, move the stop from 100. I just think it makes sense to me. I'm not going to give up that extra 50 pennies when it seems pretty obvious that I'm wrong if 99.50 breaks. So I am moving my stop on this name, and you talked about this. Sometimes you have to adjust your plan, obviously, on the fly at times. A couple of names that are just sideways action. I mean, that Abbott Labs and Abercrombie & Finch not doing a heck of a lot, but I do need to jump you guys back over to VBIV before. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about Beyond Meat at some point. But VBIV, once again, they get the break, take a bunch out here at the top, and then the stop out and the breakdown. And it feels like this is getting a bit ridiculous. Normally, I'd be buying on these dips. I told you twice how I wasn't going to do that and start playing the breaks. I got to re-examine why I didn't just stick to the plan. Buy on dips, play the range, also play the breaks. I've only done one half of that on VBIV, which is basically throwing away some of this move here to the upside. So I'll have to revisit this. But you have to look at what's happening here at the top. There was more selling than I anticipated through that 520. That's why I got a bunch out. So if it doesn't break through this range sort of a little bit below that, it is going to be a sign of weakness that I might consider at least selling into, because I am flat, and then using the next 520 break as a bit of cover to reverse to the long side. So that's going to be on the radar. Abbott Labs starting to finally go a little bit here. Brendan, what do you got?
Day highs for this one, guys, Beyond Meat. 9.8% now for BYND. Just took out that high there, which was 137.5. So a nice look. Volume coming back in at day highs as well for Beyond Meat. Guys, they announced, we talked about that e-commerce site. So direct mail of their products on their own e-commerce site, guys. All
right. Abbott Labs getting closer and closer to that entry point for me. At the same time, BYND. Thank you, Brendan, because that is now on my radar. 134.50 is going to be the stop on BYND if I get into it. I'm looking to play this high break right now. I want to see how they react before I actually step in to BYND. But I am looking at potential longs here with 134.50, and of course ABT is going to be the short that I'm looking for, just underneath 109.75.
Yeah, I just want to jump to another name, which is finally coming off without me, and that's going to be Big C. It's holding, at least trying to, I should say. Every time I say that, it's going to probably break the bottom here at 140, and then testing this 137 area as well. For the time being, it is trying to make a bit of a hold at both these prices, 130, 140. Higher low action might give you that retracement type of play. Now, worth keeping in mind, you're talking about expanded ranges here. So, realistically, if you do try something in front of 140 and risk like $3, VWAP's giving you like 6, 7 in terms of a win. So just understand that it's putting in larger ranges than an average $140 stock. It's got a top to bottom of about $30 so far today, which is gigantic. We know how much it can move. So if it holds its bottom, I think there's room to scalp it a little bit, but that doesn't mean taking $1 or $2. It actually means taking 2 or 3 times that relative to what its actual range has been so far today, guys. So I'm looking to see if Big C holds up at that 140. I won't rule out a break to the bottom and 136, opening up those floodgates for a short for me. American Airlines was a good trade for the breakouts. We had a couple of breaks here to the upside. First at 13.70, we gave that one, and then 14 even, which I did stop out the last quarter of that break even. It's come all the way back and wants to test the pre-market breakout price here at 13.15. I feel like there's a decent chance with the futures holding up that AAL would hold that price. So let's see what happens if we can hold higher than this at 13.20 or so. 15 would be the ultimate stop, but I'm going to be trying to bottom pick here. We're 2 for 2 long on AAL. I'm going to go back to what's working, and that was first for me, American Airlines.
Yeah, for me, someone asked in the chat, didn't ABT hit my entry target? Yeah, but the problem is, or the thing with me is, I don't actually get in just because it hits a price that I'm looking at. No. I want to see how it reacts around that price, and clearly they are not liking that price. So I'm not in just yet. I'm waiting on this one. I really want to see the activity. Keep in mind, this is a gap too. So that makes me hesitate even more because of the fact that this is a gap into this this move break. This break is actually a move into this gap. So of course, anytime I trade, guys, whether it's the futures or the stocks, I'm never going to be getting in immediately. There's always going to be me trying to read the tape a little bit, see if the action is there, if there's enough volume. Because if it breaks with 1, 5, 10, 100 shares, that's not going to be enough for me. But if it breaks with some decent volume, actually sustains the volume, and I start to see more bids, that activates my interest in whatever the break is, whether it's the futures or whatever the case is. And talking about the futures going back towards a high. Here's going to be the new read on the futures here. As I pull this chart up, futures, if we push up the new highs here, after having backed down all the way down to 85, around 85, I think 34.85 is going to be more than enough information to play off of. So the way I would do this now is we keep bouncing off of this and keep moving down towards that 34.80 out off of this 3,500 above us. But now 34.85 is starting to hold in a small way. What I can do now is potentially look for longs in front of 3,500. We're probably around 34.92, 93, maybe even down to 90, and use that 34.85 as a stop, because if that stop goes off, that just confirms all the selling I was seeing here anyways. So now the move on this futures, the move that I'm looking at on the futures now is for a long in front of 34.85. Mind you, I've been waiting for this long in the 34.80s. I'm not getting enough to work with, but now the trade has moved up slightly. Better risk profile, especially with 3,500 above us. So 34.85, I know that if I'm wrong here, that just activates and confirms all the selling that we were initially seeing here anyways. So for me, 34.85 is a new level to keep an eye on. Of course, ABT, still waiting on ABT. We are waiting on that that has not done what I wanted to do. And of course, NTAP has gone to sleep in front of this 44 even level. So that is more patience than anything in SRNE. Neil's favorite stock is maybe.
Why do you call it my favorite stock?
You keep trading it.
I'm going to make a trade in AMC here, and someone just mentioned, I saw it in the chat, there's someone was talking about it's a play on Tenet, which they can take my money. Looks like an interesting film for that one. But I wish I could turn back time like in that film, because I was looking for like a 750 area rollover. But I mean, for it to break 7 even and immediately come back in, man, that's just a play normally I would be all over. It's at even dollar psychological level. I was too married to the notion that maybe it would happen a little bit higher. Now it starts to come in. This is where we try to pick up like 690 or so. If it does want to give me consolidation in that range, I might take a shot shorting in front of high day, which is now 710, or even just that 7 even. But I'm not going to chase it all. I'm not going to chase this move down to 670. I do feel like if it does start to come in heavier than this, there'll be a secondary play. But for now, I'll wait patiently, see if I can get something in the 690 range, having missed that first leg down on AMC. There goes Abbott Labs trying again to bust through that low. I still have it on. I do have a tighter stop because it's a breakout trade than normal. But it is time for our European update. Let's go to Valeria at the big screen.
Hey guys, welcome to the European update. Europe is in a negative territory today. Russia is leading down 1.36%. Italy is down 0.83%. France is down 0.36%. Britain is down 0.19%. And Germany is down 0.56%. German online takeaway food group Delivery Here fell more than 4% after announcing the acquisition of online grocery group InstaShop. That's all with the Europe, and I'll keep you updated. Back to traders.
All right, ABT, I finally stepped in. I think I got enough information here for me to take a short on ABT. So I'm short 109.84. Again, 111.50 is the stop. I have joined Neil with this. We are both working this short now underneath 110. Someone mentioned a fruit salad. Yeah, I mean, the positions are in play now, so we'll just let them be. And this is the fruit salad for today, guys. We are sponsored by the color red and the fruit strawberry. So there's been a lot of strawberries, it's been the same. And the thing that I did this morning was, because Neil mentioned the cantaloupe situation, I avoided the cantaloupe. I left it all for him, and I just went ahead and took the watermelon. So it was a win-win for us. I got the watermelon, he got the cantaloupe, and we are both happy with our fruit salad. Hopefully this market actually, you know what, the market actually is taking off now towards 3,500 on the futures here. So definitely keep an eye on 3,500.
The market's heading to 3,500. The high in the NASDAQ, 1239, I think is the top there. Look, Arun, I mean, I have short position in Abbott Labs here in Dollar Tree as well. When that break happens, if that break does happen through the top, does it adjust your outlook on any of the shorts that you have in individual names there? For me, I'm going to stick to my guns, at least for the time being, until I see more information. I do have a stop on Dollar Tree, which could hit. But are you changing your outlook if we break that top?
Not really. I mean, I try to keep them independent as possible. I mean, obviously, if I was in trades like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, those are heavily influenced and are influencing the index itself, right? So that's going to be that. In those stocks, I'd definitely be watching out for the futures as a whole moving in one direction against the position. But in a trade like Abbott Labs, I mean, both of us, we've been looking at this area for a while now. I've been looking at this, making sure that there's enough action on the sell side that even if the market goes up, there should be enough selling on this stock. I want to make sure that there's enough selling for this move to actually happen. So that's why I've been patient with this. I'm waiting for this one to break. I finally got that trade. So now we're waiting on this to go. Futures can do what it wants to do. We can even flush the stops and come right back down. So that's an option too. So in the meantime, we're just going to wait. And hey, Brendan, what do you got?
Another one in that group, guys. Speaking of Abbott Labs, here's Laboratories Corporation, I think it was. Laboratory Corporation of America. Gap down on the ABT news, but showing a little bit more relative strength here than the rest of the group, only down 1.3%. We've seen some of these other ones down 2-3+%. So have a look at LH, guys.
I do want to quickly note through. I threw it in the chat there, and there is a bit of a buy imbalance currently being shown for XPeng. I know everyone's waiting for this. I'm going to get to it in just a quick second. I took a reload in Abercrombie and Finisher in front of that 1290 area, but we are waiting for XPEV to open back up. I mean, you do see an open book at some point. I hope we get to trade this, but there's no guarantees that it is going to open. It's now adjusted to 1.36 million. So I'll update you as I do see any indications that it might open. But it could actually open higher than that 20 that everyone has been talking about, guys. So watch out. We're going to be all over it if there's a trade. Didn't I say don't sleep on Sorrento here? Yeah, there's the break in Sorrento. I don't know why. I should have just jumped over here when I saw that consolidation, because there would have been something for you at 785. I didn't want to overtrade. It wasn't on my list this morning, so I don't want to force anything. But you see this sleepy action in Sorrento. Hold the bottom. There's that breakout. Sometimes I'm willing to squeeze some people out there. Once again, it does it. It's never sleepy for too long there, Arun. You got to watch out for that puppy. Abbott Labs, once again, is trying to break to the bottom here. Now, we do have that 110 break at some point. At some point, I really do feel like, let's get off the 1 minute, because that was good for the open trade. But if you see how big this gap is here, and you're going to understand why I've only been shorting this. I scalped the pre-market range here for a very specific setup. This second trade is really more about, if we take this bottom and hold it and make a big time flush, I think at least 50% of a retrace here from that 110 to 103 isn't unreasonable. And so if I can catch like a $3.5 winner here, just conservatively first consolidation around 106, 107, I'll be all over that, guys. So this is what we're putting on in Abbott Labs. I'm not sitting here risking 25 pennies on this trade. You got to give it to like that 111 area, I think, or 110.50 to 111 area, to be honest with you. And it's not to throw away or roll the profits on the first short into the second one. It's a different trade. It's on its own merits. It has nothing to do with the fact that I had a winner on Abbott Labs, and I think I got a good read on it. Just two setups, and I'm playing the second one as simply as I played the first.
Well, clearly, you know what? Me and you were sleeping on opposite sides of the bed on SRNE, because I was short. This was not helping my case at all. So I am short with 830 on the stop. I am short around 780. So it is now helping me that this market is moving up, or this stock is moving up. But hey, you know what? PLAN. This was brought to our attention by Marlon in the chat here. PLAN 6250 is still the break. What I've done now, I really like what's happening on PLAN. 6250 has been there since yesterday. 6075 was the last point where we bounced. What this does for me now is I can mark a level here, a market level here, whichever direction we break from. I'm going to go ahead and take that break with the stop on the opposite level. So if we break below 6070, I'm going to go ahead and go short, use that 6250 from yesterday. Otherwise, we go long and use 6070 as a stop from today, actually. And you know what? NTAP making its way towards 44 even. Continue, again, looking for that break. More time, maybe this time around we go. What do you got, Brennan?
Not seeing any catalyst on this yet, but Live Nation having quite the day here. LYV in New York up almost 10%, or was 10%, coming in a bit. Just straight higher today from 53.5 up to $58 now for Live Nation, guys.
I just want to quickly jump back over to Sorrento's to talk about, it's kind of squeezing to the upside, but perspective is an important thing. If you look at the harsh retracement it's made, this is relatively tight in terms of the range of the last couple of days. And, the reason why you want to be thinking about that short, especially through that 770, is pretty clear when you go to that higher time frame. However, I'm looking next at this 820 to call it like 830, 825, 830 area to the upside. Now, I'm thinking short as well here after it's already burst to the upside now, Arun. But if it gives me any chance to short rolling over from that this pop to the upside, holding the pre-market top, holding yesterday's bottom as well in terms of resistance, I'm jumping all over the short in Sorrento. There's a clear downward trend. You see how hard it's been under pressure the last couple of weeks after that parabolic move up. So I'll dive into it on this rollover, not a breakdown trade, but I'll probably take profits in front of that 770. It has been a little bit of resistance or support down there, and then add to it on the break of 770. So two separate trades. Rollover hopefully here or in this range, and if it gets to 770, take it all out by then and look for a breakdown at that same price. Sorrento has not broken the trend until I see it holding above 830.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that is going to be a problem, like I mentioned, guys, Netflix, NFLX. 536. Remember, I had gotten short twice here. The first time didn't work out. Second time, yeah, we made some money on the first half. It was about $4, $4.50 for a $500 stock. Is that a win? Yeah, maybe. but we're expecting much larger target. But here's the problem. That 536 started that area, 534 through 536. That started really kind of consolidating, not just consolidating, but actively selling in that area. So that was what gave me the initial read and then the secondary read. But now we've taken that out, and this becomes a problem because now all of this is turning into a support area, which I don't know what's going to happen, but at the same time, this area concerns me. So I've marked off 531 as a potential level to work with. There's no trades at the moment for this right now, but that is an area that I want to keep an eye on. Of course, if we keep going, that might come into play tomorrow. So I'll just mark it off, leave it for another day. There's no trades on this yet for me. But what I am going to be looking at now is NTAP as we are moving through 44 even. 43.80 is now the target here. Not the target, sorry. 43.80 is the last price. I'm still looking at the target, at the first target, 43, between 43.20 and 43.10. Of course, we've already cashed some out. So the target and the next target here is about 80 cents, 60 cents away. And we'll see how this one plays out as we enter this range. Of course, I'm expecting a ton of action here through 43.20 and 43 even, going all the way down to 42.80 potentially. So that's one to keep an eye on. Of course, I told you guys PLAN is now consolidating between 62.50 and $60.70. We did this yesterday. It was the same area yesterday. I went long, it didn't work out, and then I went short. And that trade ended up taking forever because I got short around, 10:30? I ended up getting out like around 3:30. So yeah, it took a while for this thing to get going on the short side. Now we're right back in that same area. So 60-70 breaks. I'm looking for the same trade as yesterday in the afternoon. What do you got, Brendan?
Just checking on Microvision here. MVIS, 2 days in a row to the upside here. We mentioned this one pretty late in the morning yesterday as well, but you can see volume coming in once again to MVIS up 15%. 175 just taken out well above yesterday's high. We're kind of in no man's land here. $2 possible on MVIS here, guys.
I just want to jump over to back to VBIV for a second. I put this in the chat for you guys. Look, just because it's coming back down through VWAP doesn't mean when I took this out here was a good idea. It's going to end up seeming like it's good from a P&L standpoint, but ultimately I was playing the upward trend. This is probably a place where I should have been buying that dip and then scalping out in front of that like 510 area. If it cannot hold first this 470, but I think more importantly 450 is going to be that key point for me. I will start to favor the short side trade on VBIV. So we're not quite there yet. This 50 to 70 range is going to be important, but it's made a bit of a top. We encountered a little bit more selling than I anticipated at 520. That's why I covered somewhat aggressively up there. But 450 floodgates could open up and a gap retracement to the downside on VBIV. So I would watch out for that. Abbott Labs continues to go a little bit sideways on us here. It is trying over and over again to break through that bottom. I'm just not really seeing it. I do see you guys talking a little bit about Walmart. I don't really see the story. We'll see if Brendan can get to that one. But it is sideways action through the bottom on Abbott Labs. If it finally does break, I think there's just so much room for it to fall. It's going to be worthwhile holding on to this one and putting some of this money to risk.
Yeah, Abbott Labs, this is a problem. This was my concern. I thought I saw enough, and then we do it again. I'm out of Abbott Labs. I made like 9 cents on the trade. I'm walking away from this. I do not want to see this. If we're going to break into a gap, this is the last thing I want to see. Of course, this could bounce up towards that 1150, offer a short, and then go. But at the moment, on this break, for me, it's not worth the risk. So I've already just taken away the 9 cents that the stock gave me. So we're going to walk away from this. And of course, BYND, guys, I've stepped into BYND in front of 137. Again, 134.50 is going to be the stop on this trade. So this break high, I like the action that we developed in front of it. So I'm going to use that to support this long here. 134.50 is going to be the stop. It's going to cost about $2.50. If we can get through 40, we can really get going. And that 40 is only it's $3 away from my entry. So risk reward ratios are good. I like the setup. 134.50 is the target there. Oh, not the target, the stop there. And of course, PLAN is going sideways, and we're going to wait for whichever way we go on PLAN, we're going to wait for that one. And of course, SRNE, we're letting come back. And NTAP is flirting with that 44. That might be something I may have to tighten the stop on there. What do you got, Brendan?
Just a heads up on Digital Ally here. DGLY just popping up on a volume scanner. Big volume coming in from 225 up to about 250 here, guys. Not a huge move, but just going to check on the news for Digital Ally, guys.
Yeah, I want to quickly jump back to Sorrento here, and I see what you guys are chatting about with Walmart. If they are indeed supporting the bid, with Microsoft and TikTok. We'll see if we can't get that to you. It's just going to be immediately believe something that I heard and haven't seen myself. Ultimately, I do want to jump back to Sorrento because I have an order to go short if it breaks that 8 even area. So I wanted to see if it tests and rolled over shy of that sort of 830 type range. So if it breaks this support, which is forming now, I'm going to be jumping into that short using the high of the day's first stop. Either way, if it does hold above, fair enough. I'm going to tell you we'll throw away some of our profits there in Abbott Labs. And as we tighten things up in that sort of bottom end range, as the room was sort of talking about, you tighten things up a little bit, the longer it starts to wind up, the more dangerous this gets. Ultimately, if it's going to fill a gap of like $6 or $7, there's likely to be a couple of shots at it here. So I went ahead and I was about to tell you guys that I was tightening my stop in it, but it already triggered as I was doing it. So I'm going to step away from this. I don't want to throw away the morning profits. It's also 11:15, and we're getting to the point where we could open up on of course, the IPO that we're waiting for today. And I know I'm going to want to be playing in that heavily while watching Sorrento and now tracking this Walmart potential news. It's just rumors, it looks like, coming from Brendan here. So I can't dive into this assuming it's going to be true. I can look back over at AMC. I didn't talk about the 650 area, so if this wants to give back to this area, I'll look to see if we can't short it. But right now, support at the secondary breakout price of 650 on AMC theaters there. If it does make a bounce off here, not a bad risk to reward proposition to take along in front of 650, but I'll be shorting the break.
All right, and the future is coming back towards that 85 level that I had marked off. See what's happening here? This is going to be a big problem, especially when you're trying to figure out what to do. The fact that we're willing to put in new highs like this, but every time we go up to new highs, we're actively selling it. That could be program selling. That could be passive selling on the offer. There's a lot that happens up here, and this is around that 3,500. There's a lot of resistance, seems like. Of course, the problem is it also builds a ton of stops above 3,500. So what I'm going to do is 34.85. We can get underneath and settle in, meaning we get underneath, we try to keep going up, but we actually are, the selling has now stepped down from the current area that it's working. If the selling has stepped down towards that 34.85 through 34.90 after breaking 34.85, then you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go for the short with 3,500. It's okay that this market is rejecting 34.75 because for me, this selling is more of a problem than the buying down here, because the buying is just a continuation of the trend. The selling, though, that is active selling against the grain, which becomes more important for me, especially right now and the news that happened this morning. So for me, this kind of activity, it's a problem. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. At the same time, it's an opportunity waiting to happen. Of course, we got BYND. Don't forget that. We got BYND just in front of 137. That is now in the money, 35.40 cents actually. And 134.50 is still the stop. Of course, I'm looking for 140 as a target. But of course, if we take 138.50 and pop off and kind of come back and blow up some stops here, then that's a potential for an exit right there immediately, because I don't want to start seeing it hesitate like the futures are doing as we get to a round number like 140. Yeah, 139 is there, but I think 140 is a bigger number. So 140 is going to be the area that I'm going to key off on. 138.50 needs to go, and it needs to go cleanly. So nothing past that. And SRNE, this is just decided to go against me there. So we're just going to wait on this one here. There's nothing else to do. And of course, NTAP, I moved the stop there. Trailing stop is 44.40. That locks in 60 cents in profit. Target is still about 80 cents away. 43.20 through 43 even. That's the first target. 44.40 is the trailing stop on that. And of course, PLAN is going sideways within the range that we had established. I'm waiting for a trade on either end. Whichever way it goes, I'm waiting for that trade.
Yeah, I'm looking at some sideways action ANF, but if it breaks up past the 3/4 mark, I'm going to cover this one for you guys. I did talk about Li Auto in front of that 2085, and look, you go to the higher time frame, and it's just, looking at that breakout in the afternoon, and for me, having a mixed result here. You go first long win, second long lose, first long win, second long lose. I'm basically just sitting there, flipping a coin each time. And I don't know, I don't have a particularly good reason why I didn't reverse to the short side on this break when I look at this here. Certainly you do run into that previous support that had bounced off of like 2015 or so. So look at this range. You had the breakout, sort of the failed at that original price at 20.86, comes back down, holds about a 60 to 70 cent range, and then breaks out in the afternoon yesterday. It breaks down through that price, and it's the same 60 to 70 cents that it retraces for you. if you're a scalper, that's an obvious sort of break the short, take 30 to 50 pennies in there, and then maybe jump back into it. And I definitely missed that one. So got to do a little bit better playing off of that key level that we had. So I'll go WTF to myself because as a scalper, you got to have that trade when you got the level pegged like I did on Liado. Didn't take advantage of the downside to be able to get in and out a couple of times on that break. However, if 2017 to 20 even does go, just watch out. There's immediate support, like 15, 20 pennies lower there. So it's a bit of a choppy action below the below this bottom here. So I'll probably stay away from it. Below there, next stop more like a 1930, 1940. So Liado room to go if he gets to the next level down.
All right, SRNE approaching that stop. I'm going to let this one ride out. I mean, the way I trade is if I get in and I haven't gotten a read to get out just yet, I let the stop go off, and that's fine. There's a reason why the stop was where it is. I'm going to let that area work itself out. We are fairly close to getting out of that one, but that is not cooperating with our read at all. But you know what is cooperating here? There is NTAP now getting back underneath 44 even. Getting close to that low of 44.80. This has been a slow grind, but you know what? It's been a grind, but it's $1 in the money. I'm risked $1 and I got $1 on the first half already, and now I'm locking in another 60 cents on the stop. So this is one of those, just let it go and work the trailing stop on that case, in that case. And of course, PLA now stuck in that range here, 61.50 right there, pretty much dead center. 60.70 is the bottom, 62.50 is the top. And of course, BYND, guys, we got that long. If we can get that 38.50 to go, we potentially have a run towards 3,900 and 140. What do you got, Brendan?
We might have finally found a bottom here on MOXC, guys, just bouncing again off 220. So still up 10% on that merger news this morning. But what an opportunity this was. On the short side this morning, we've come from 370 to 220. Trying to bounce here, guys, for MOXC.
Brendan, do you remember what I said pre-market about this puppy here? And one of the things I said to Brendan was usually the only thing that works for me on these deals is wait for it to sell off, because that's traditionally what's going to happen in sort of an all-stock deal. It was way too strong. I'm like, why isn't it selling, giving me a place to pick it up? The flush comes in, and I don't short these. And it's because my track record stinks shorting in these particular plays, even though the setup is perfect on the chart. So it's finally made that bottom. I'm very, very comfortable taking that break through like 240 area, then using the low of the day here. I think it's got a good shot to give you that retracement play. Obviously, it's a very, very steep sell-off. You're still up 10%, guys. You're holding yesterday's close almost to the penny. I like that for support. I like this for a break through 240. If it actually double taps 210 down here, maybe I'll pick it up at a better price. But for now, I'm looking at 240 break on MOXC. I was waiting all morning for this play. I talked about it in the pre-market, how I was going to look for a bit of a dip buy and consolidation. Finally, it does happen here. So let's look to get long at 240 when it breaks. Brendan, what do you got?
A few more people now talking about this Walmart story, guys. So here goes Walmart through the highs of days. 134 just got taken out as well to the upside. So 2.7% now on these TikTok rumors. So a few more sources now talking about Walmart ties to TikTok, guys.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if I want to buy it now.
That is a crazy, crazy run. How do you even trade this? I don't even know. This thing is just taking off. I mean, this is at this point when the market moves like this, all you can really do is play the scalp game. Neil, this is right up your alley, is it not?
I mean, at this point, it's a little bit far past that. I think if you caught the initial break, and let's ignore the 1 minute here. Let's go to like a 3 just to try to play this a little bit closer. Like if it ever gives me the sort of rumor range of a support in the afternoon, I think at that point I'm going to be all over that trade if I get a shot. But these prices don't look like they want to come back. So let's go to the higher time frame to see where is an important break. And I think 134 even where we are right now is kind of a decent level here in terms of what was previous resistance. So if we can consolidate above 134 in this 35-cent range at the top, let's take a break if we can't. Brendan, what do you got for us?
This is obviously from CNBC, but yeah, Walmart saying now, so this is from the company, it's teaming up with Microsoft. So you saw it right here from Reuters and CNBC talking about Walmart teaming up possibly with Microsoft, guys.
Yeah, well,
nobody wants to be left holding the bag on TikTok, eh? So they're partnering up to take that bid. That's interesting. But regardless, Microsoft's been on fire now. Walmart's on fire. Who else is left to come and make a bid for Walmart? Why not Oracle? Why not? Hey, you know what? SRNE should make a bid for Walmart TikTok as well.
What, did you go long in SRNE a second ago that I didn't know about? Look, ultimately, I'm going to take my first shot. You talk about a scalper's dream here. I sort of identify that 134 to 134 to 134.36 range. I did just play that quickly in and out for a hit. The only thing I'm going to do here, like I said, there was that one thing I could identify. That doesn't work. I'm going to wait for a possible retracement, maybe some levels to give me an indication here, but I just can't dig deep into this. I think obviously every single person that immediately went into the news is going to be right on that. I just don't usually trade these if I don't know exactly that the news is firm. I want to see a retracement here that I can dig my teeth into. I'm just not seeing anything. I took my one shot. I'll be done on Walmart, at least in the short term here. I do want to get back over to SRNE. It does make another leg to the upside, but we're still in this 8 to 8.30 range that I mentioned that I was watching to see what happens. It's still a rollover in that range, so forget about the breakdown trade at 8. I'm now looking to take something inside that 30 penny area. I'll have a stop, not necessarily at the 826 high. It's going to be more like at 830. But now I'm willing to sort of take this consolidation. I mean, I'm only going to be risking 15 or 20 cents. And I think if we get through 8, I'd probably add to the position as opposed to take off here. So I'm going to dip into Sorrento. It's a bit of a different idea to the short side than I gave a little bit earlier on that 8 break. But I'll take a shot here. 8 to 8.15 is an entry area, a reasonable price for me.
Oh my God, what did I just do? I thought I was getting out of BYND and ended up shorting Walmart. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. So I'm gonna find a way to get out of this. That was not supposed to happen. I'm trying to bid my way out, and there we go. I got it out. Whew. That was an accident. Don't ever let that happen. Don't make sure that you got your right screens up. I was looking to get out of BYND in front of 138, and I decided to go into a short in Walmart. So we got out of that without a hit at all. So walked away from that one. Let me just get out of BYND. That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to cash out of BYND in front of this 138. I don't like what's happening here. Right here in front of this 138, there seems to be a lot of activity. I was expecting more action than this. This is not right for me. So you know what? I'm just going to cash out of BYND and just walk away from this trade and take what the market's been giving me. And look at that. I avoided that mess that was Walmart. So there we go. And you know what? NTAP is still cracking that 80. Now we're getting closer and closer to that first target. So there we go. That's the first target that I'm looking at there. What do you got, Brendan?
One from yesterday, guys. We were looking at this TYME yesterday. It got all the way up here to 180 in the pre-market and came all the way back down to 115. Starting to peak up here. A little bit of volume coming into TYME up 5%, guys.
I want to look at this for you, Brendan, but I just don't know if we have the time to get to it. It just seems like it could be hard to cover this one. And there is my horrible pun for the day, guys. Look, you're going to see an opening range break. Obviously, right here through that 120 mark. It's just always worth noting where we have come from, what also might be significant. If you sort of throw out all the parabolic moves to the downside, I zero in on 130 is a key price. You did have a quick little bounce there, and then you had a strong second leg right at the end of the opening sort of rush, that first hour of the day, through that 130. It then failed back through that price when it tried to retest and fell the rest of the day. So 130 is where I would think the next resistance would be 130 break. If it rolls over shy of it, sure, you can go into the short trade. Abercrombie and Finch is starting to come to the downside. Sorrento, I'm giving to 830. And at that point, I think I got to break in to the long side trade because that's going to break the backs of a lot of shorts through that price. But now definitely on the radar time, although I'm looking at the 130 price as opposed to the breakout that kind of already happened.
All right, something that just pulled up for me is BABA here. I'm looking at BABA. I think there's a nice consolidation here that could be a really nice break here. 56.13 seems to be the high. Around that 286.13 is around the high. 286 even, or about the level. Nice little sideways action after going down. You're expecting, in terms of consolidation, when it moves like that, you're expecting it to continue. Of course, I'm looking for the reversal because I think if it turns around, that builds a nice little base, especially since we kind of went through 286 fairly quickly, bounced to 287, and then kind of set up a little bit sideways and then came back above. That opens up a nice little base for me. So 286 long, just above there. 286 long would be the break. And of course, you got to give it through here, 284. You have to risk at least $2 here to catch that entire range. Remember, when you're taking a trade, you want to use the area where it's either hesitating to go down or consolidating to support your position. So in this case, a break above this area would give me this whole zone to work as support. So 284 would have to be the stop. There's no negotiations. I'm not trying to cut corners here. You have to use the stop that the market is giving you. In this case, 284 would have to be the trade. Of course, I'm just going to go ahead and mark this off here, 286. 286.13 right there. If it ever gets past there at some point, I'm going to go ahead and get in on the long side. Of course, BYND, guys, I'm trying to cash out in front of it. 138. I'm out. I've walked away. Yeah, I can continue, but this is not the action I want to see after a break like this. It can go, but this might be a long-term grind that I don't want to be a part of. What do you got, Brendan?
EA to the downside today, guys. Didn't see this off the open, but huge move. A little bit thinly traded, probably why I wasn't looking at it, but volume down to 140 here. Bounced off 140 up to 142. Epic Games out with their latest version of Fortnite today, so EA under a little bit of pressure today, guys.
It's in the game. Finally got the moxie to get into this position here. MOXC does break that 840, almost no slippage because it's a cheap stock. So you get a $2.40 break. I get 241 slipped in there. I think honestly, you have to be willing to give it two ways. If you're pure scalping this, you can consider like the 230, 225 as your bottom, or you give it all the way to the low of the day, which I think is a little bit more prudent. I think there's a chance you get back up to this 270 area. That's 1-to-1 at that point, and then the next leg up would be a break back up, maybe even taking out or trying to get to that 3. So that's what I'm looking at for Moxie here. Abercrombie and Finch, I talked about this being sideways action. Look, it's just going to give you sort of that standard consolidation near the top. Unlike VBIV, which I was bungling around with, I actually do buy this little dip here, so I do buy this consolidation. I'm not looking to add to it at this time of day. I keep wanting to put some eggs into the basket of the IPO, which hasn't happened yet. Xpeng everyone's waiting for. If we get close to this high, that 1320, yeah, will I take off maybe a little bit here for like a 25-cent win? Maybe I'll do like a third of it off in front of the high and then hold the rest for a break on Abercrombie. Hasn't happened yet, but it's not the horrible idea. Getting close to lunchtime where you have to start thinking about, are things slowing down? Do you have to adjust your expectations for some of these moves? I feel like the answer is yes on Abercrombie, so I'm going to go ahead and take profits in front of the high a day. Sorrento is moving to the downside. I talked about getting in the teens, in the middle of that 8 to 830 range. So that's what we got here, 813.5. If it breaks 8 even, I'm looking to add to my position, not take off, but also probably take off a little bit of a scalp here just in case it holds this range. But I'm going to add on an 8 even break. So I'm going to go ahead, still have that order locked and loaded, ready to go, but I'm adding on an 8 even break to double into this position on Sorrento and hopefully get back to that 770 bottom.
Yeah, you know, I'm also keeping an eye on the futures. Remember, 34.85 is a level I had marked off. If we broke through and settled in there, this activates all or confirms all of this selling in front of 3,500. This has been a problem I've been worried about all morning. Of course, every time we go down, we go back up and push it higher and higher, closer to that 3,500. So if we get through 34.85, settle in. Remember, settling in means getting through, kind of actually trying to go back up, but it's actively rejected once we get through. Then I'm actually open to shorting this and use 3,500 as a stop. Unfortunately, in that situation, I'm going to have to join the plethora of stops that are above there. There's going to be a ton of stops above that 3,500. That is way too round of a number with this much action in front of it. So I'm hesitating to do it, but at the same time, if it sets up, and it's got to set up very properly, like very well and properly. So if we get under 34.85, set up nice, 3,500 is going to have to be the stop. And we're just going to work it into that 34.75 area. It is going to cost me about 15 points or so, plus slippage, let's just say. So I got to control the risk. I know that I want 34.85. I know there's going to be a problem here. So there's going to be a lot more active management once we get into this zone. But that is the area that I'm keeping an eye on. Of course, as NTAP is continuing its move through 43.80. Now it actually is bouncing off that 75 area, 70 even level. 44.40 is still the trailing stop on this. We have not changed. This is just going to be looks like it's going to be a grind for the rest of the day. However, this decides to play out, we will wait. But 43.20 through 43 even is the target. That is the first target that I'm looking at. We have already managed out some of this around in front of this 44 even level. So we've got that one. SRNE still waiting. 83.30 is the stop. I'm short down here 780. We are being patient with this. It hasn't done anything that makes me want to get out here. Remember, this is the same trade as the DLTR trade where something happened and I wanted to get out, but at the same time, I couldn't get out. So I wait for this level to hold and make my move back into this 780. At that point, I would consider getting this out around the 785, 790 area. That's worth it, I think, at that point. Just take the small 10-cent hit instead of giving it the whole 50 cents or whatever it needs.
Yeah. I want to sort of double back on the SRNE talk because reiterate what I was looking at here. I did take off 20% here, just in front of that 8 even range. So I am playing a bit of the range. This is going to open up the opportunity for me to take more shares if it does try to slide back to the upside. I am going to take the break at 8 even, so you might see an execution there. My average price change on SRNE, but I did start that one 13, 14, 15s in the short end range. We're looking to play this breakdown. It is under pressure. It's been days in a row to that downside. I want to take advantage of it if I can. I need to go to Abercrombie because you know what needs to happen right here? They need to sign up Brendan as like a spokesperson or whatever, and then we get that push to the upside that we need. I was trying to take some shares out in front of 13.20, and it just, again, puts in a bit of a lower high. It ran away from my order, so I feel like my luck is not good on this one. I'm going to stick with this stop around VWAP. I'm just going to cover this trade. 2 sideways, and I've already had a couple of missteps in it. 1 big hit, 1 small, and then this one, it feels like a good spot, and it looks like it could go, but it is so incredibly sideways and sleepy on this trade. I don't want to get caught up trading something it's not looking like it wants to move here. But still hasn't broken the stop, hasn't broken out of the range yet. No reason to take it out just yet. Brennan, what do you got?
Another day high here on this BDX, guys, just breaking the top end of the range here. 245.20 was that last little tick to the upside. Still down 3%. Again, this is another one from the ABT group, Abbott Laboratories. Another one in the Laboratories group, a little bit more relatively strong than the rest, guys.
So I just heard like the Ric Flair woo by one of our traders there in the back. As I am looking over at Big C, yeah, it did a bit of a missed opportunity. It did give me that bounce back into VWAP. I just never really got the price that I was interested in. I wanted to see it test back into 140 so I could risk closer to that low of day. Ultimately, if you buy it too high, you know, it's more of like a 1-to-1 risk win-to-loss ratio, which that's not what I was looking for over there in Big C. So yes, it went up. That's kind of what I was looking to see happen, but it wasn't from a price that I could play it, guys. So you got to stick to your rules ultimately. It's not just about making a call. It's also about a trade that you can execute, I should try to say. AMC is holding this consolidation range. I'm still going long through, short through the bottom. Hasn't broken yet, but when it does, you're going to see me indicating to a short trade. And of course, we're waiting patiently for XPeng to open up. No guarantees here. Obviously, we'll trade it if we can. With only 20 minutes plus to the end of the show, there's no guarantees, guys. Yeah, good question here from Callaway. When Lemonade IPO launched, how much did it open at before it ran to 90? I think it was like a 50. And then within a day to that 90 to 95 before pulling back, something along those lines. I think it was like a 50 opening price on Lemonade. We'll have to double check that. Brendan, what do you got?
Even this one, I mean, they were talking about 15, now seeing 35 could be the number for XPEV. So still not open yet, but we'll talk about that when it does. Zoom here, guys. Even Zoom having a nice day. Kind of struggling here at 300, but trying to get back above 300. If you remember, we tested it yesterday, came back below at the end of the day. But Zoom very strong once again, guys.
That's a nice setup, actually, on Zoom. That's something to consider. I think I'm going to mark that off for another day on Zoom there, just underneath breaking of that high from yesterday with potentially 295 as a stop. I'll keep that in mind. Not today, but maybe another day. But you know what? NKLA, a lot of talk about NKLA, guys, in the chat. Breaking 39.10. It is just completely gone. Here's the thing I would look at on this. We spent a lot of time inside of this 40 area, going from 40 all the way down, maybe around 39.75 or so. That 25-cent range has a ton of action. I'd be worried about what's coming up in front of 40. With all this activity here, there's no way I'm going to step into this here. But what I would want to do then is mark off this area, 38 even, you see is below all the action here after taking out that 39. If we can get in towards 39 again and kind of just settle in and catch a bid, I think there's a long there, 39 long, 38 even on the stop, and then we could take a shot again at 40. But right now, as it's running, there's no way I want to chase it given what the volume here would look like in front of 40. About here, you can even say 40.20, and all the way down to about 39.75 right through here. So for me, this is at the moment it's running, but I'm not going to chase it. There's no way I would chase this run. I'll just wait for it to come back in and just take the trade after that. Of course, BYND, we got out. This is just creeping up higher, so we'll leave that alone. And of course, SRNE, thank you for coming back towards the 8 even. It gives me confidence in that area, of course. At the same time, I'm still worried about this 780 now. I'm looking to see what happens inside of the 790 towards 785. If we hesitate, I'll just cut this trade, take the small hit, walk away. There's no point in risking more than I need to, given the way we're moving through these levels. So I'll keep an eye on this as it comes through 8 even. And PLAN getting closer and closer towards that 62.50 area. The longer it takes to break, the more I like it. But at the same time, we did the same thing yesterday and didn't go. So, I mean, it's trading. It's going to go sometimes. It's not going to go. That is a reality of the situation. But if your plan calls for it, you take it every single time and you just play the averages. If you have a 60% hit rate, you're going to lose 4 times, and that's okay. That's part of it, right? You just got to know your averages on what your trading plan is, and you just trade it. Don't care if you like it or not. Just do it. Do what you need to do, and just keep those numbers and averages working out, and they will play themselves out. And keep in mind, BABA, guys, I also mentioned BABA in around this 286.13, 286 even area. If we break, I think there's enough for a reversal. Of course, I'm willing to take a shot. Take that break. $2 is going to be the risk on this there. So we're getting closer and closer to that 286. Of course, I want to see what happens above 286. I want to see the tape. I want to see how much volume comes in. After that point, I will step in.
Yeah, and I just want to alert you guys, VBIV, that level 450, that little consolidation we're concerned with, or at least I was talking about, potentially breaking right now. I'm going to look to be into the short trade once it does happen, triggering a little bit right here in front of that 450. But I think the other thing is, if it holds consolidation down here, I'm very likely to sort of jump in and out, do some scalping along with what could potentially be an afternoon type of retracement. What I would always say, though, if you look at these moves to the upside, the parabolic ones, where there's obviously still some room to go. You can see all the executions I have as a scalper on the daily chart, but there's still some room to go to that 565. That afternoon, like 130 type break to the upside. As I'm short selling it in at lunchtime, I have to consider that, right? So if we ever do get a break back up, sort of above that 470 to 480 area, I'm likely to reverse back into the idea of going long. I still have an order for a 520 break that takes me to 565. None of that's gone away from me. I just see it break that 450 that I like, and I jump into the short trade, looking to see if I can get down to that 420. Again, if you're scalping, which I'm going to be doing in something like a VBIV, it's a different style of trade. I just take advantage of that price action. Sorrento breaks that 8 even. So I do trigger, I'm going to have to wait because I think it's short sell restricted here, trying to get some more shares to the short side. But I am short at 13s, looking to add to my position, not take off on Sorrento. Starting to head southbound, guys.
Yep. And here we go, Sorrento. That breakthrough 4 even helps me out in a big way. Again, my short's just underneath 480, but at the same time, I'm looking at 780. At the same time, I'm looking through 790 through 785. When we start to hesitate, I'm out. I'll take the 10-cent hit or 10, 12-cent hit, whatever it ends up becoming. But this area is going to be hot now for me. So this is the area that I'm looking at to potentially cut and run on this trade. BABA getting closer and closer to that. Well, it's backing off now. It was fairly close to that trigger on the 286. But this is exactly what I would expect at this zone, right? The reason why I'm looking at this area, because there's a lot of interest here. So the fact that it's backing off helps my situation even more, because it tells me that it confirms that there's more and more selling in this area. Every time it backs off, provides more and more ammo for information. At the same time, it's burning the people that are actually holding that area. So less and less shorts are still in play as more and more buyers step into it. So this area, I'm expecting sellers to be there, but every time we check into it, every time we move into it, it's less and less selling is what would, more and more buyers, less and less selling would happen. If we turn around, of course, then the sellers all need to get out and we actually go for the run. I'm not expecting it to happen. Normally a pattern like this is a continuation, but at the same time, in the event does, I'm prepared for it because that is a trade that I really want, because I think the reversal is going to be much bigger than the extension on BABA. It's just the type of setup, because an extension would just continue what it's doing. At some point, there could be an easy buyer around 280 versus a 286 break, which could potentially push you towards 291.5, which is the high. So that's why I'm looking at. I'm just looking at this high break potential, and of course, plan PLAN getting closer and closer to that 62.50. If we get that break, remember 60.70 is going to be the stop there. So if we get that break, it's only going to cost me about $1.70, $1.75 to take that break. What do you got, Brendan?
Yeah, so that little Sandridge Permian Trust still halted, guys. Looks like this deal is a little more complex than we initially thought. So we're talking about Pedevco, PED, higher this morning on news that this PER was interested in acquiring that company. Looks like there's Avalon Energy and also Monterre also involved in this. Avalon and Monterre both owning a significant amount of this Sandridge Permian Trust. It's very complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, it seems. So if you're still watching that PER, that's the reason. They're just trying to sort out, I think, exactly what is going where and how much of what is involved for that PER, guys.
And that's why you need Brendan in there to give you the juice when you need it there. It's all about not trading blind. You want to make sure you're informed here, and I was sort of looking at it, still halted. You want that update before you jump in. Like Walmart there, I was sort of waiting for confirmation, and ultimately sometimes if you want to mitigate risk, it's going to cost you guys. So me waiting for confirmation on the Walmart news cost me $1 move. I just want to look at XPEV here because, XPeng, sorry. Look, I don't know when it's going to open. It obviously feels like it might not happen until after lunchtime, but I will update you. The buy-in balance has crossed 2 million shares to the buy side. Still looking like I'm hearing it could open above that $20 mark, obviously. So I don't know that we're going to get to trade it live on the show. That doesn't mean that we're not going to get some price action that's worthy of our trading in the afternoon. Tesla continues to ramp to the upside. I was looking to fade Tesla today. I'm not, I got to be honest with you guys. I talked about a 2200 break, looking for that for a downside play. Obviously, it was a solid level, just not for what I was looking for. Another push to the upside on Tesla. Remember, the catalyst here, of course, the split effective at the end of this month. It is fresh all-time highs. If we see if we see tomorrow 2,500, I think you can guess what I might at least attempt to do one time through that price. Still got 10% to go. However, the way Tesla has been going, 10% moves can happen in a day or two. Do not write that one off. Do not think that it's impossible. All things are possible, it seems, when it comes to Tesla.
Yeah, MTAP, guys, I just got out. It hit the trailing stop, 44.40. So we locked in about 90 cents on the first and about 60 cents on the second. So we're fully out of there. The only position I've got left is SRNE. Of course, we cracked that 8 even level. Now we're going towards that 790, 785. That's the area I'm looking at. There seems to be a lot of congestion. Of course, if we back off, here's what I'm going to do. If we back off of this 785, then I'm going to get out. Of course, if we break back above 8 even without even getting to 790, sorry, not 795, 785, 790, that area, if we don't even get there and just completely come back, I'm just going to cut this trade. I can take a 20-cent hit and walk away. There's no point in holding on to this trade at this point because it's not doing what I want it to do in this area. So at that point, what can you really do, right? So you just walk away from the trade. There's more than enough information saying I'm wrong if we get through this area. So walk away from that. And futures, of course, creeping higher and higher towards that 3,500. I think there was a quick opportunity at 34.90. I glanced at my futures chart afterwards, and I saw it. I was like, oh, there was a potential to get that 34.90 long with the 34.85 stop. It would have only cost 5 points plus slippage. That would have been a great entry. Of course, I was too busy doing other things. There was a small time window where it would have made sense. You would have caught the action along with the move up off that 85 level. So unfortunately, that's a no-go, and I missed that trade. So everything else, I've only got one trade. I'm waiting on SRNE. I'm waiting to see what I can do with the futures, and of course, PLAN creeping up closer and closer to that 62.50.
I just want to update here, and Callaway makes a good point. He's like, don't do it, don't short Tesla. Look, anytime I talk about that, even of it was like 2,000 the last time, 2,500 or so, you can't be married to the idea that you absolutely have to just stand in front of the train. It's more if it gets there in a fashion that I like, which hopefully would be in the midst of a parabolic move and not some sort of orderly fashion push into 2,500, but a parabolic move up that just runs and extends a little bit too far, and then I see a hard sell start to come in with a tight stop and good liquidity. Then the risk to reward just becomes too good as a day trader to not at least attempt to make that trade where you're risking, depending on slippage, $5 to $10 to make what could be like an $80 to $100 retracement. And again, it's similar to those breakout trades where you feel like, yeah, but it just seems kind of random going along through 1900. Yeah, but if it has some trouble going through, you have too many stops at that price, just worth it. Same thing with profit taking at 250. I think it's a psychological level. If I like what I see, I'll take it. I don't have to do it. I'm just going to be all over looking for it in the next couple of days, guys.
Yeah, I mean, very little to do going into lunchtime at this point, right? I'm just keeping an eye on the futures. The only thing I can look at actually is BABA. Remember I mentioned every time we got closer and closer to that 286, it was burning all the sellers. It's getting rid of more and more sellers. Of course, the buyers are entering, but at the same time, at some point, the selling is going to run out, and that's the move I'm looking for, that 286 break. Taking out all the selling action kind of confirms this area for me. So 286, I'm just going to go ahead and mark 284 as well. I mean, now, given how much time we're spending here, I think the extension is also not a much better, but a decent trade as well. So if we extend, I think now 286 break, upside long with the 284 stop. Of course, if we break to the downside without taking this out, I think the 284 short with the 286 long, or the 286 stop is going to be the way to go on this trade. So we're just going to bracket this stock here and pretty much do what we did with SRNE, right? We just bracketed it. Whichever direction it decides to break, that's the trade I'm going to go for. I'm doing the exact same thing on BABA. And of course, SRNE looks like it does not want to get heat, or not just want to, but like it doesn't look like it's going to stay past this 8. I'm just going to give it a chance, give it a couple more minutes, see if we can actually catch more selling to push it back underneath 8 even, closer towards that 285. If we can't do it, I'll just walk away. It's going to cost me 20 cents. Overall, guys, I mean, like yesterday, like, here's the thing. For everyone that was watching yesterday and everyone's watching today, the same. You have to understand, every day is going to be different, right? So some days it's going to be hot, some days is going to be a little bit harder to come by. So just understand, every trading day is different, and that's what you're seeing today. What do you got, Brendan?
Not seeing news on this one, but we had earnings, I believe it was last week, on Shake Shack. Nice little move here for Shack. Again today, almost 8% here to the upside, just testing 65 right now, which is recent highs for Shack. Guys.
Yeah, I see you in the chat, guys, and I'm not trying to be harsh or anything. You just like... If it's a day trader, you really can't be married to one direction or the other. You have to be willing to sort of play both sides, and sometimes you have to go against trading your own book or your own individual bias on a stock. So I can like Tesla. I can think that there's a good shot of going to 2,500 based on price action and what's been happening. And any good trade I've had in Tesla this month has been long, like I said in the chat. If it gets to 2,500 and there's a short that I like, it's just, you've got to put every single trade on that has a positive expectancy for you, at least in your experience. And then just at the end, it'll work itself out, like Arun said. And if something has a 60 or 70% hit rate and the risk reward is good, you're just going to make that trade, even if I think Tesla might push through and it could be a death trap. It is what it is, guys. You got to take those shots here. But if you are shorting in a name like that, have an out. Have a plan. Stick to that plan, because if you don't, you sit there holding the bag, wondering, oh my gosh, where is the next level of resistance going to be? What decision do I make next? Do not turn losing day trades into swing trades, would be my advice to you on that. I do feel like SRNE here. I took more shares at the 8 even break, and it is turning around on me. What I do want to do here is sort of leave myself some room for a bigger flush to the downside. I'm going to stick to that 830 stop. I don't want to adjust anything too heavily here, guys. And we really need, and I'm going to throw this one out there to not put you on the spot here. Actually, I'm putting you on the spot, Rob. We need like the Tesla shorts as a graphic, so I can just throw that one up there from time to time. I think it's absolutely hilarious, the trolling. So we'll see if we can't get that one going for us here. I think they are pink is the overall idea. So let's see if we can't get that going at some point. I do want to quickly update a few things that I have going on. One is that MOXC. I talked about that 240 possible break with a 210 bottom. I am now playing the entirety of the range. I'm dug in on this one. I'm going to give it to that low of the day. I think if it breaks through that to that 270, I can take some out for about a 10% type win, and then look to see if it makes a push to 3. I was waiting for the bottom pick on this stock. It was not one that I liked the short retracement on, despite the setup being good. Obviously a bad idea, I think. I should have shorted it. It is what it is. It just didn't fit my parameters, so I didn't put it on. Now I got the bottom play on here on Moxie. Let's see if it has the juice to push to the upside, but I won't give it past yesterday's close.
Yeah, for me, Baba is breaching that level that I'm keeping an eye on, but at the same time, I'm not rushing it to get in. I want to make sure the buying is legit. Areas that they're working. Now, I'm concerned about the selling in front, right? So when we get through that area, I want to make sure that there's more than enough action to actually get this breakout going. So I'm waiting a little bit more to, if I need to pay up, I'll pay up. But I'm just waiting to get a little bit more interest here before I step into the buy. What do you got, Brendan?
Anyone watching AstraZeneca, just a heads up, there's a big volume spike there. The EU apparently paying 336 million euros to secure AstraZeneca's potential COVID-19 vaccine. So, yeah, if you're watching this one, big volume spike here for AZN, guys.
My stomach is literally growling right now because I can smell lunch, and I have no idea what it is, but I feel like all bets are always... Is it chicken?
He said fried chicken.
I just heard fried chicken, and look, I love fried chicken. It is what it is, people. I'm going to be happy with that call. So let's see what happens. Obviously, we have a few minutes to go here. I was going to update you a couple of minutes ago to say that Li Auto was finally showing a little bit of strength. And then, of course, this happened, right? So on volume, a rollover here in Li Auto. I'm going to say this with only a few minutes to go here and waiting, of course, on XPeng IPO to open up. pay attention to what happens in the overall space. Any ridiculous strength you might see in that IPO could lead to some sort of sympathy sell-offs. Whether it's going to be, we saw it in Workhorse, we saw it in Lee. I wouldn't lump Tesla into that. Obviously, they're a little bit different. Maybe NIO would be affected by that. So just to make sure you're checking out the entire space. Don't trade blind. If you got a quote board, maybe throw some of those names into it. One thing I like to do is have a quote board based on sector. So if you wanted to go ahead and create like an automotive sector, I would definitely endorse that. One other name I want to get back to, the bane of my existence, and I hate that I put myself in this spot, but look at this consolidation in Dollar Tree. If it breaks 99.50, it's basically going to decide my day. I've been flipping positive to negative, but this trade is going to decide it looks like. I mean, I can't predict everything. I do have a few other positions on here. If it breaks 99.50, I'll turn negative on the day. It is also feeling like a gap retracement to the upside, so I'm likely now going to reverse long through that 50 to 100 area and give up the ghost shorting Dollar Tree. I did come in with a bias saying I like Dollar General better than Dollar Tree. I'll stick to that from like a long-term perspective. But on the day here, I'm going to have to grip my teeth and buy Dollar Tree through 99.50.
Yeah, and I've gone ahead and gotten that long on BABA. I've seen it enough. I like that long. I grabbed it at 286.26. 284 even is still the stop. We're looking for an upside target way into the 90s here. So that's the target that I'm looking for. That's the only trade I've got going on. You know what? Some days you get those big winners, and some days the job as a trader is not to actually make money, it's just to minimize the losses. Because some days are easy to trade, some days are not, and you're going to get a mix of them, and you don't know when they're going to happen. So just understand that as a trader, especially with new guys that are trying to get into the industry, you do not have the expectation that you're going to make money every single day. Some days it's going to be a matter of just staying near zero, and that's going to be a good day. And some days, the other days are going to be great winners, right? So that's how you play the law of averages. You have about 22 trading days in a month. Understand that only a few of them are going to be great winners. Other ones are minimizing the risk and minimizing the losses that you're going to have. You end up positive at the end of the month, right? And that's the game that a lot of people, I think, forget, is they're trying to make money every single day. I mean, everyone's trying to make money every single day, but at the same time, your plan, your strategy is not going to allow you to make money every single day. And if that's your expectation, you may have to temper that quite a bit. So understand, something like BYND is a big winner for me. The reason being, I made next to nothing on BYND. I got maybe like 40, 50 cents on something like this. But at the same time, this read was for me to get in and get going. And for me, when I start to see it slowing down and I'm like, you know what, it's not doing what it needs to do, I don't have that, expectation now no longer about 140. I'm looking for a $2, $3 winner on this stock because it's not doing what I want it to do. So I started to, cut my trade because it's not doing what I want it to do. I'm starting to work my plan because this management is part of my plan. And look at that, it's coming back in. This is a winner in itself. It doesn't have to be a huge winner in terms of net as well. Sometimes a winner is zero. That is a winner. And that is a part of trading I think a lot of people forget, or a lot of people don't kind of prepare themselves for, because in 22 trading days, there's no way you're going to win every single day. Brandon, what do you got?
It is about that time, guys. We have a couple of minutes to go. It's a shame we haven't had this XPEV open yet, but should be exciting when it does. Again, the IPO waiting here. Yeah. Not a lot to look at there, guys, on the chart. Not open yet for XPEV, but here is what is coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. Please join us, won't you, at 1 p.m. Our great sponsor here at Trader TV, Day Trade the World. We're going to do another little information session on Day Trade the World. If you have any questions regarding opening a trading floor or trading in general, join us at 1 p.m. We'll be talking with a number of representatives from Day Trade the World, so it should be a good one. Let's have a look at what's coming up after market tonight and before the open tomorrow as far as earnings are concerned. We're getting to the end of the big names, but there are a few on here that could give us a trade tomorrow, guys.
Big lots, baby. Yeah, we'll definitely be watching a couple of these names. Of course, Gap, you've seen GPS definitely be in play, so that's going to be firmly on the radar. I feel like you can't go too far away from the electric vehicle space, and of course, we do have the IPO, which did not open up for us. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it. Have zero control over when they open these things up. It just feels like it's been getting later and later every single year. They used to open up within an hour, and then it's like 2 hours, and now it's like lunchtime. You give it the action when you're eating your lunch. We'll try to trade it when it does happen. I feel like the entire space will continue to be in play for the rest of the week here, Arun.
Yeah, one stock that's on that list I think is going to be very interesting is going to be VMware. I think that's definitely, especially with a lot of people now at home. I think VMware is going to be one of those. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And I know earlier this week, Brennan talked about HP. I know we did HP Enterprises. I think this is the other one, right? HPQ, is it? Brennan? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, okay. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those two play out. But I think for me, VMware is going to be one of those that I'm going to really pay attention to because there's a lot. We saw what happened with Salesforce. I think VMware is another proponent, another beneficiary of everything that's been happening in the world. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we have one thing to get to here today. I'm going to be guilty of something because I'm literally Googling what national day it is when it came up on the board because I actually don't know this one. So let's, in a quick second, we're going to go to Valeria for what national day it is. I want to jump to VBIV. It is still sliding to the downside. I have that 450 short. I scalped some out for 10 cents. The next leg will be in front of the pre-market and opening range bottom here, 404. I will not be still short if it gets anywhere close to that price. But it's now time for Valeria. Let's find out what national day it is.
Hi trading family, thank you for another great day together. I wish you a profitable rest of the day and welcome all the new members, new subscribers. Thank you for all the love and support, guys. Again, you're our main motivation and inspiration. If you didn't like this video yet, please hit the like button now. We just 100 likes away to reach 1,000 likes. It takes just 1 second for you and makes us absolutely happy. So please smash the like button now. And guys, go watch our next educational video about how to read the tape. And at 1 p.m. Eastern time, come back and tune in to our live meeting with Day Trade the World representatives. And happy National Post de Crème Day. Pardon my French.
Post de crème? What is that?
Post de crème.
Exactly my
What is
response
that?
to Arun, because I do not know this one. So Arun has no clue what it is.
It's like a moose, it looks like.
I don't know what it is. Brendan, do you have any idea what that is?
I feel like a mousse slash souffle type of thing. Not entirely.
Definitely
sure,
too fancy for me.
Look, I'll tell you this right now. Everyone likes a chocolate souffle. I think we can all
Sure.
agree on that in this world. But like I said, I have no clue what that one's going to be, guys. It's been a fun ride today. Obviously, I think we all look forward to maybe trading that or looking at that IPO. We'll tweet out anything that we do see there that's worthy of that action. Good luck trading it to all of you, of course. And you might want to tune in, of course, to the live broadcast that we're doing at 1 on some education topics. But we are also dropping a video today, and it's going to be reading the tape. Every now and then you might hear us talk about, big buyer or seller at this price level. And it's not necessarily always looking at the bid or ask at that level too. It can also be looking at that actual time and sales and the prints that are coming off of it. So watch out for that drop. And as always, if you want to suggest a topic, tweet at us, put it in the chat, drop it in the comment section of the video, and we'll see if we can't get to it. Like I said, it's been fun, and you guys keep shouting out Peloton. I'll have a look at that one in the afternoon, see what I see. But for the entire team down the line, of course, for Valeria, for Arun, filling in admirably for Sean, who is on his vacation twinning, I hear, and Brendan Wickens, I'm Neil Roberts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live. See you tomorrow, guys.